now you can hear us. We were being muted. All right, now do it.
Call the meeting to order at 7:02. Do the agenda or removal or adjustment of any items?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. We'll go to regular business update on the School Street water line investigation and consideration of the next steps.
Correct. Hopefully folks had a chance to glance at the notes. Both Jill's notes from their site investigation and what I tried to summarize. But Jill can give us an update and can review the recommendations.
Jill.
So it appears you have a 1 or a 1 1/4 inch galvanized line servicing those 5 buildings.
Okay.
So,
And we learned at last meeting, right, that these people here, and I apologize for taking your name, I forgot your name.
Bruce speaking.
That we have a right of way down the alley. And they produced a map, we have a right of way down the alley.
We have a right of way across the front of their
Front
property.
of their property. Out to Park Street or no?
No, just across the front of their property is what their map showed.
Okay, Michelle's got it up here on the.
And this is Steve's map.
Okay. So,
So we, Joe, quick clarification, the 1.5 inch galvanized line serves all 5 property, it ends at that road before the alleyway, as far as we know.
that's what it appears. We can't feel it with the line locator that we have a line locator that you can attach to the curbs and the valves, and it sends an electric signal down the water lines. It
Mhm.
disappears once we get past the last house on the left, which is the last service as you're coming down the line. As it's coming down the line, it first goes to the rectory. The church that's ahead of that, that's before the intersection, that has its own service, and that's what that valve is on the left-hand side behind St. Ambrose on School
Yep.
Street. That's their service. That valve box is their service. After that, off of that corner, if you're looking down School Street, on the left-hand side, that water line kind of runs at a diagonal, and then it takes a 45 and it kind of just goes along a couple of feet off the left side of the road. That's what we found. There's nothing else there that's showing up with the line locator or with dowsing rods, and there's nothing else that shows where the water lines were picked up with the 2 different pieces of equipment. So when we vacuumed down and we looked, it's like a 1 or a 1 1/4 galvy. So
In terms of that size, Jill, is that a standard size that's used to feed multiple houses, or is that considered small?
So I don't build hydraulic models because it's not within my
Considered small.
purview, but in my world, that's very small for 5 buildings, especially considering one is a pretty good sized commercial building.
And do you know an approximate how long that's been in the ground there?
My best
Since
guess,
it was put in.
1905. It could have, chances are it was 1905 or later, given the fact that there was nothing to connect to until 1905.
Okay.
Right. So like the lines coming down Park, they weren't there to connect to before that. So that would be the earliest that it would be from.
When was the school
No, there
built?
was a NH Munsell water system that came from the north. That came down there, because there's all kinds of galvanized pipe up by the greenhouses when we put the greenhouses in.
Oh boy.
There's all kinds of galvanized pipe there.
When was the
came-
school
That
built?
was from.
When was the school built?
I have no
You don't
idea.
know.
So I have to ask Joel, it's before my time.
well, the school was built in 3, it was built in 3 sections.
Right.
And the original section's gone, where the bell is now, that was their first school. And they put the addition on, which we know as the white building.
Right.
And then the
The gym.
gymnasium, they played gyms. They played basketball in the upstairs here till they built that gym for Bristol High School.
I was just trying to figure out if we could time frame when at least that water line went in. It might give you an idea of when the rest of it went
Well,
in.
when was the house, do you know when your house was built?
No.
Probably, I mean, I'm not, so does the high school, I'll call it the high school or the gym, Bristol Fitness and the Wells property, first of all, the Wells own all of that?
Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then they pay rent, somebody pays rent.
Pays
to the
rent,
gym.
right.
Okay, so, is there just one feed into that building or two?
One
One,
One?
to the front building, to the front.
So I just wondered if they must, well, they probably, like speculating, just guessing here, probably when they built that section of school, they went out to that 1 inch. Or maybe they ran back to the curb, because the original school probably had its own service because they didn't have a school line.
So
The second edition of the high school.
with the size of the pipe, given that it's not like a standard, and the year, how much buildup would be inside of that pipe?
We have
And-
amazing pressure.
Right, and
Well, I was
could-
just gonna ask that question. All of
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Dale, you too?
and is it possible that, given that the age and given all the buildup, that it could actually serve houses with any sort of pressure?
so pressure is a function of elevation. Volume is a function of pipe size.
Okay,
So let's say that if the old high school were to convert itself to a laundromat and put in 50 washing machines, that is when you'd have probably a big issue, because there'd be this massive call for water and there wouldn't be enough volume. If you were to try to put a hydrant on a 1 inch galvanized line, which would be just the dumbest thing anybody's ever done, you would not be able to fill a fire truck very quickly because of volume. You'd have good pressure. It would like squirt out of a 1 inch, but you've got 2 1/4s and what, 4.5s or 5s on hydrants. They're big.
So St. Ambrose, they have gauges in their basement, and in the basement, you're seeing 132 to 127 PSI on their pipes coming into that thing.
Yep. Now St. Ambrose is pulling off of the line that's before the corner, before it
Right,
turns into the
right.
1 inch
The
galvy.
churches, but not the rectory.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, they've got good
We don't
pressure.
need to talk about them. It's just the 3
right.
or 4 houses.
Just
And-
saying,
and
as
the-
far
and the
as the
one
pressure
business.
in the zone.
Yep, the pressure in the zone is good, and that's a function of the distance from the water in the tank.
So what size pipe would be recommended?
Honestly, there's a school of thought on that. Usually one would say that it should be put into a hydraulic model.
It's more of
Well-
a Steve question, isn't it, Steve?
It,
Steve on?
I was gonna say, I don't think any of the water lines that are for distribution should be smaller than a 4, but that's just my opinion. And that's, that's the same rule that they have for Champlain Water District, that no distribution main can be smaller than a 4.
I just saying, if you're gonna replace it, you might as well replace it with the right size.
I mean, I think
Messing around with
Yeah,
It
the pipe
should
is
probably
the
be-
pipe is the cheap part.
it. Right.
Yep, should probably be put in a hydraulic model to just make sure that it's got appropriate volume for the flows that those 5 buildings would need.
Steve, are you listed in here?
Yeah, hi, sorry, I joined a little late.
I'd like to ask your opinion, if we put this repair or new pipes into the whole scheme of the west side in phase 2 or 3, whatever. But if we own the alley all the way to Church Street, or at least a right of way, or could get a right of way, would it be beneficial for the water department and the water system to have an 8-inch main loop from Church Street down to Park Street?
Yes.
It's always better to loop things, right? You always get better flow, better pressure. And Jill will tell you, also dead ends are never recommended in terms of water quality. So, yeah, I mean, it's always better looping. That's an expensive ad.
Well, if you're going up 4 or 8 up to the alley, up to the columns, we'll call them, between the property line of Baker's and the high school, the old high school.
Right.
You're talking a couple hundred feet more for, I realize that's thousands of dollars, and we promised half of it and not get any of it. But I
understand.
mean, isn't every line a dead end line?
No,
Really?
No, they're looped.
Yeah,
My house is a
what
dead
you
end
mean,
line.
Your house is, but the line that
So
goes
that's why I
by
said
it
that.
is looped.
I say that kiddingly.
Service line is a dead end line.
Yeah,
Every,
but the problem is when you have more than one house, you're not cleaning that line every time. If not everybody has their water on, you're not cleaning that line, and that's where your service line, the water's going by and you're drawing off. So your line's always clean.
so I'm gonna ask Steve, the audience here is people on School Street. So you have good water pressure both at home? You know, or you don't know?
No, Matthew doesn't have great water pressure.
Well, you flush the
Is that
toilet?
because of the
When
leaks
you're taking
or
a
is that
shower, you
because
flush
of
it
the?
He's losing at least half of whatever's going in there, at least.
In the ground, so we believe.
Yeah.
So I guess the question, so we have the questions from Jill, from the email, in terms of what to do. Is this something in terms of if we replace that line with a new line that serves those 5 locations? Is that a separate project than the water line upgrades that we're already planning to do in phase? Steve, do you know, is this area, is this a phase 2 or a phase 3 area? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, that's in the next phase, Bristol West, which we call phase 2. I guess.
Okay. And is that water line replacement part of that phase already?
No,
No.
Because we didn't know what was there previously.
No, because it was thought to be private.
right.
Got it.
Okay.
Valerie, can we share screens just for a minute?
Yes.
Bring this up so, or I can send it to you and you can bring it up just so people can visualize what's there. We did actually survey it. Jill and Cyrus and I went out and I
Yep,
put it
both you and Jill are co-hosts.
okay, now I just have to figure out how to do that again.
Share screen.
So I guess the easiest thing is just to add it in to the phase 2, right? As opposed to doing it as a separate project.
Phase 2 though could be years away.
Yeah, that's kind of my concern is that,
The issue is we have a problem there now.
Yeah.
yeah,
And also phase 2 is just dealing with the public side. And so we still have to resolve that question, as I understand it.
What's that? Sorry, what was that?
Because it's a private line,
Correct.
so it doesn't. belong
I see,
to the town.
I personally don't feel it is a private line because it served the school and the school, we, the taxpayers of Bristol owned the school. And
It's an easy fix for the
Yeah.
town to take it
Yes.
over. It's just a matter of getting a
Which it
quick
shouldn't.
claim
It
deed
doesn't
from.
make any sense to have a private line there. So,
No.
No.
you know, unless those residents want a private water line, but
That's okay.
my guess is no.
We'll
So.
share.
Yeah.
But in terms of problem solving, I mean, could you fix the immediate problem, which is being able to connect Dale's house to the water line by retaining the 1.5-inch pipe that's still there?
provided we don't have problems when we hook into it.
Yeah.
But if you do have problems when you hook into it, would it be ridiculous to repair that problem at that spot compared to?
It could end up being the whole
The whole-
thing.
the
You
whole-
might break it and then break it again. and,
Yeah.
you know,
Because it's so
repair,
old.
4-foot repair.
That's the unknown. Is
You're
there-
Right.
better off to replace it. Yeah.
there's not a valve at that line to shut it off. The valve is at the end of Park Street by North and at the end of School Street by West. So their shut off is going to include a dentist office, a gym, a bunch of other offices,
Right.
several households, a church. So we're trying to say, if we can see this coming, does it make sense to at least put a valve there so that when it comes time, which, you know, I would have loved to have already had this done, but when it comes time to do that service line replacement on the town side, when we're talking about replacing the curb and replacing the line to the main, which we'll call it a main, it could not go super awesome and it could take several days. And I don't think that having all of those different houses and businesses off for that many days would be a great idea.
Yeah, we can't do that to the dentist's office. We can't
Well,
just say, sorry.
So what,
You don't know what you're gonna find either once you get into the ground.
well, that's the next question is, if you're gonna put a valve in, or are you gonna put a valve in the current main that goes on School Street, or are you gonna put a valve in the line that goes up to the school?
I would say we'd go back to the corporation and see what that connection looks like and start from there. If we were to have to do it, it would make the most sense to start where it's tapped on the original main where I found it and then go forward and see where to lay the new one into. Because 9 times out of 10, I find in this system, you can use the corporation that's existing if you go right from there.
But it's not gonna be big enough, is it, Si?
Well, I mean, unless you want to tap a 2-inch onto it and go up to like a 2 or a 4-inch, you know, it's up to you guys, really. I mean, you should buy all the rules. You shouldn't be any smaller than a 4, ideally 6, 8, but if you loop it through, it should be an 8, you know? And then everybody would have great pressure all the way through there coming down that alley in a phase 2 type ideal. And then it wouldn't be an issue for anybody anymore. And it would just be town property with right of ways and taken care of on the project and thought out instead of added to.
So Steve, if we put a 4-inch from the corner of Park and School up to the gymnasium, the old gym, school gym, to service these 4 houses plus the business with a 4-inch, would that have to have a blow off, or what you guys are calling a blow off hydrant
Could have a flushing hydrant.
or a flushing hydrant?
Yeah. Yeah, flushing hydrant will work fine.
Yeah, for water quality, it should have one.
So, as they say in the digging business, what size pipe you put in the ground doesn't matter, only for the price of the pipe. You still gotta dig the same amount of dirt. Would
Right.
it behoove us to run an 8-inch up to the gym doors, not go through all the way to Church Street until we do Church Street and maybe run back down? Would you still put a hydrant or a flushing hydrant or just a regular hydrant? What's the cost difference between 4 inches and a couple hundred, 300?
You gotta have a state permit to put in a hydrant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're
Yes.
correct.
Yes, you do. Yep. Yep.
Which
and
that
it's
could be
over-
part of the other.
Project.
anything
Yeah.
over 500 feet requires a construction permit.
Right, and to be fair, we're getting one for this project anyway. I mean, that's not the issue. The issue is whether you,
Well, I wouldn't think it's 500 feet in the corner of school and
No, but
park. I get what you're saying, Peter. I'm just saying, if we're digging the ground up,
right,
and then, in 10 years, we go and do Church Street, I hope it's not 10 years. And we say, we really should loop this. And then all that 4 or 6 inch we ran up to the gym, we're gonna replace it with 8. Doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't, it seems like we run 8 from the corner of Park and School up to the gym doors.
right. The cost per foot is negligible between 4 and 8. It really doesn't. I mean, it might be $20 a foot. It's not significant.
And we're talking maybe 300 feet probably.
Yeah,
Or more.
right. I mean, if we're using Pine Street as an example, it's $325 a foot all in, rough number.
So then if we decide to replace the line, what's the timeline look like for that? Does it have to be engineered? And
Yeah.
then we put out the bid, things like that?
I think I'm hearing you guys say you want to make this part of this project, correct? Not a separate project, a standalone project, but part of the larger Bristol West project. Is that right?
Well, I asked about that, but the concern was that it would take too long. It could be years away. And so this might be something that we have as a separate project that we do immediately, potentially.
that's my thinking.
Well, I thought we were, Steve, the last time we talked in 23, when we were promised the world, or half the world, that we were gonna try to do this another 3,000, 4,000 feet in 3 years, which 23 would have been 26.
Yeah, I mean, if we
Is that
stay
not on the
schedule-
table anymore? Is that not on the table anymore?
Our schedule right now is to have the design and permitting for this done by the end of the year and apply for step 3 funding, which would be construction funding in January.
And I know the neighbors aren't gonna be happy with putting it off, but they're still getting water. If we can make it part of, if Church Street is in the loop, or I believe you said it was gonna be, I think Maple, what Eric was saying, because of paving, it's gonna be Maple and Munsell, but I don't know. But I'm just asking, if it's gonna be 2026, could we do this part of it, hold off for,
3 years,
2 years?
two and a half.
2, we're in 24 now and 26, so I call mine a year and a half,
Right.
almost 2 years, yeah. It's not I agree, that's not the most practical and not gonna make the neighbors happy, but they won't be happy when they don't have any water, and if we go and try to hook Dale up to a new line he puts in from the house out to the alley. And then we go, okay, now we gotta tear everything out because the pipe keeps breaking, we can't even get a connection. And that's where you were getting at, right, Peter? Just my thought.
That's like our worst case scenario concern, and we'd rather set it out there as like, these are possibilities. What do you want to do if worst case happens, and just put it out there so that we're not in an emergency meeting when we're thinking we're just,
Making a
Make-
run-of-the-mill connection.
yeah, just doing it quick, and then it turns into a kind of a mess. So I wanted to ask the questions, get some answers, and then proceed with a strategic plan to either throw in a valve and take our chance,
So
or
if-
wait, or
if we did this sooner rather than later, we could always feed them overground through the rest of the summer, giving us time to get that line in should we need to.
I think
Overground
that you
how?
can. I think you have to have a special permit for that
I
because
don't know why you'd wanna, put yourself at risk like that. I wouldn't, instead of just go and do it. I don't mean to be.
Well, I'm just thinking if you had trouble, if you went to make Dale's connection and all hell broke loose.
Then it's
we
go
have-
time. Then it's go time and it happens. That's all. It's like, who wants to pay for it? And that's the point of all of it, is whose property is it? And then when it goes awry, who pays for it? And if you guys are ready to do it, we'll do it. If not, whatever, we're waiting. However you want to move forward. It just is one of those things. You never know what you're getting into. You could also find more piping in there that wasn't expected, that's not mapped out, that's been there 110 years.
Well, I think at least we ought to come off that corner Pine and, or excuse me, Park and School Street. Somebody look in the window. And
Kids up to mischief.
at least, come off that, go north. I don't know how much you were thinking, Steve, 10, 15, 20 feet, whatever, and put a valve box there. So that's it.
You mean as part of the larger project or?
No, not part of the
Just
larger
north.
project now.
Do that now.
Do that now. And then if they go up and give Dale water and as Peter says, or Si said, it all hell breaks loose and they can't keep cutting the pipe and it keeps disintegrating. At least we're not shutting off the street, as Joe's concern was, and we can map out something to do there, but.
I think that's, yeah, I think then Si's suggestion is the route to go. You open that up, find that corporation, see if you can put a valve off of that corporation and hook the pipe back up, and then do Dale's. And like I said, if it doesn't go well, then everything gets done.
I have a question. Based on the information we received from the state earlier today, with a very detailed explanation of the metrics for forgiveness and qualification and all of that stuff, it sounds like there are a lot of variables that we still won't be able to pin down perhaps. I have not studied it carefully. Perhaps Steve or Jill had time to do that. Where I'm going with this is if we're thinking about including this into the larger Bristol West project, what kind of assurance would we have at that time that it'll qualify for anything, any benefits at that point, based on what we know now of the metrics? In other words, is it worth it? Is that component worth waiting for whatever kind of benefit we might qualify for?
I need to clarify that too, because I think Steve said that his archaeological and environmental are done. So if he's adding another area in, does that mean that he needs an amendment to both of those and to his engineering services because he's expanding 3 scopes?
I need an amendment to the plan. So they haven't completed them yet, Jill, but the plans are into the state right now and under review.
I guess when we've learned so much about Pine Street, that if we'd had 300 more feet to do, we might have qualified for 50%.
Yeah.
This is where I'm thinking,
Right.
We got plenty on this one, maybe we don't need 300 extra
no,
feet.
but.
We may have too much already, that's the other side of it.
Right.
If you have too much, they won't find it.
And we still might not qualify for the maximum that we are aiming for.
Okay,
Based
there's
on
a
the
part of me
metrics.
that just says, can we just bite the bullet?
Yeah.
Figure out what it's gonna cost, where it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And get it done.
That's my feeling.
And we're spending a whole
I mean,
lot of
I-
time on this and.
Well,
I think we put a valve in there first off and,
Mm.
and see if we can get away with it, and then plan B is we put in whatever we put in for a line.
Right.
If we're thinking that down the road, you know.
I say we plan on looping it.
I'd like to know,
So you're
I'd
not
like to know,
digging it again.
I'd like to know the initial cost of 4 or 8 up to the high school, the old high school gym.
So,
Yeah, I throw my 2 cents in. Peter's not here tonight, but even if we try to do a temporary thing where we try to hook my water line up, and we still gotta dig up Peter's front yard. And then we rebury it all and then we end up having to dig it up again.
I'm sorry.
It would be good just to do it all at once, just get it all behind us, and because if the water goes out, which it could very well happen.
Another benefit to doing it sooner rather than later is the savings on the system from fixing the leak and the water loss.
Yeah, well, I wonder what else we have for loss in that galvanized line.
Right.
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 You know,
So there's a
I'm not-
benefit.
I'm not so impressed with the age and the condition of the line personally, and I know that when we had that service line shut off, we had seen some decrease in the hours of pump runtime, and when we opened it back up, we also saw an increase in runtime above and beyond opening the blow off. So I know we're losing a bunch of water.
How much did you decrease pump time when we, now versus before we fixed Pine Street?
Like negligible, because it's still like,
A 1-inch line running out of a pipe, full bore is a lot of water, and you do notice it. Every time there's a leak in town that pops up at surfaces, you can see your run time a couple days before and a couple days after as they
yep, they go whoop, and
surge
then,
up and down, plateau and stuff. So,
yep.
I mean, that's been a known leak in the town for a long time, is my understanding, and I would love to be able to take care of it and get it behind us. It would be a wonderful feeling. It would do the system great good.
Yep, and for water quality, I really feel like it would be nice to get a line that we know is not necessarily in good condition
I mean,
replaced.
The
Do we,
first,
do we know what those other 2 properties have for service? The
So
recreation,
number 19 has copper to his curb because he had that replaced, but he did not have the curb replaced nor the service line to the main. So the main hasn't been seen by anybody in over 50 years.
so 19 has copper. Dale's
on
gonna
his
have,
Side.
Dale's gonna have something in the future here.
Yep.
15, what do they have? Do we know?
I believe he has copper in his basement, but I can't guarantee what's on the other side of that.
Okay, and then 11, the rectory,
I haven't been in the rectory yet in my career.
and the high school has copper.
Copper, 1-inch copper coming into the high school.
Yep, and it comes into the first building just like he shows it like there.
Cause I mean, if we do this, we wanna, if there's any other galvanized lines there, we wanna take care of them at the same time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look and see what 11's got. Hopefully I've got it in the service line inventory. Hopefully they've submitted theirs.
If not,
And you guys, I don't wanna sound like a negative Nelly here, but, we were told, boy, you can see a little gun shy when you told me that you didn't see the pump times reduce much after we did Pine Street. And we were told, we got to do Pine Street, it's got some major leaks. But we think this one is 200 feet is the culprit of all culprits here in the whole water system.
Oh, no.
You see why I can't?
Oh,
No, this one,
what does that
this
matter to
one-
this though?
I'm just, we're ready to do this next week or this summer.
Yeah,
And it couldn't, I won't say that again, but look at the big picture and put it part of the project in 2026.
I just
You know,
don't
we
think we
did-
have enough time.
We did. Close your ears, Jill, inside. We did, Mountain View Street and we, directional board that and used HDPE.
I was
And then-
there.
And then just dug the services in, tied the services back in. That would be an option to go all the way to to go all the way to Church Street and not dig anything up.
Did
That
you
was,
put any
yeah, we did
tracer
that
wire in there?
up by the old inn, right, Peter?
Sorry, Jill,
I was talking, Jess.
I heard you put tracer wire in there too. Good job.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
I was there, I watched it.
I mean, is that an option for this
Short section?
short section? I mean, then we could go all the way, if we were doing it, it would make sense to go all the way to Church Street now. Because there's nothing to dig in the alley. And it would be done.
There is a stormwater line in there, right?
Yeah, there's stormwater.
Yeah, it's
You'd
up
be
along the
below
high
that.
school.
You'd be below that.
It's along the high school. That drain is just outside the original or the middle part of the high school.
Yep,
14th school.
the green line that Steve is pointing out is the storm line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what's the main advantage of doing it that way, Peter?
You don't dig anything up.
So is it cost? Is that the biggest
Oh,
plus?
you dig up each spot where there's a service line. so-
Right.
So.
But we don't end up digging the street up. We don't end up,
Correct.
yeah, I shouldn't say we don't end up, we do have to dig where you connect. But it's minimal.
Would there be a benefit to digging the street up because of its condition?
The street or the lines.
Well, the other issue is that we don't own the pavement.
Right.
If we dig the pavement up, we gotta put it back.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I'm just throwing it out there.
And they did a lot more.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Do we run the risk of hitting other pipes that perhaps we don't know about in that alleyway between church
Always.
and this area?
There shouldn't be anything there other than stormwater.
That's always a risk of drilling horizontally, is running into other utilities.
Okay,
There's lights on the walkway, but they appear to be on the side.
okay.
Yeah, those are on Mary's side.
Yeah. So,
But they would be below the stormwater stuff, one would assume.
see that stormwater, so we, here again, that stormwater comes all the way from Church Street. We
Yeah.
must have a right of way up through there.
Is there a
We have
significant,
an easement up through the,
Talking
Yeah.
Mary's up through that alley.
Yeah.
So
We
have an
that's where I'm
easement, yeah.
going with, so we could, I just see it here marked to
Yeah.
there.
is there a significant savings to doing a directional boring with HDPE? Versus the putting in, what's our new line, galvanized? New galvanized?
They're blue brute is what we've been using or ductile.
So what's the savings? Is it like a night and day difference? And this is a good candidate for doing that, or?
My understanding is that fusible pipe right now is pretty expensive as far as it. For some reason, it's gone pretty expensive. But I guess we do the cost benefit analysis for length and time, how much it would take. That's basically what it comes down to, is time and who's paying for the asphalt.
Yep.
Who's paying for the asphalt and the rock to put it back. And
So do we wanna get two quotes? If we're gonna have this engineered, do we wanna do it twice in terms of what those two different methods might be and then make a decision that way?
Well, my thought is you'd be looped and you'd be done.
Yeah,
Um,
and you'd replace church.
We put a
in 2 or
valve at
3
Church
years,
Street.
Which would
you
connect.
put a valve on Church Street, you'd put a valve on schools, Park
parking
Place.
school.
Then we could always shut that off if we ever had it. And then as we do each individual home in the business.
Well, they would be fed, see, they would never lose water during the construction project because they'd be fed
Off
from
the
one end or the other.
So if we did, can you just do the looping if you're digging too, at the same?
Oh,
time?
yeah, you could.
Okay.
But that means digging up the
Right,
whole
That means,
alleyway.
it's more
with it.
digging, it's more time. Instead of 2 pits, you're digging a trench, and that can be costly. And
Yeah, okay. Well, so maybe we wanna see if
What's your
directional boring is an option and maybe get a quote for that.
What's your thought on that, Steve? You're our engineer.
Sorry, I'm on mute here. Yeah, I think the only way to do it is to look at our footage and get a directional boring contractor involved and get some estimates.
Okay. Can we make a motion to say that?
I can do that.
Okay, I'd entertain that.
And I would second that.
What size line are we looking at?
If you're gonna
So-
do it, do it. That's the way I feel.
Well, 6 or 8, I wanna put it in the motion is all.
I would say it's an 8 if we're gonna do it.
Steve, what do you think?
Are we, let me ask you this, is the goal of putting in an 8 to have fire capabilities?
What are the other streets gonna be that are gonna connect?
Right.
What's the goal? Is it simply to feed the houses, the other businesses?
What is
that
the
are-
main size you're gonna put in on Church Street? That's the goal. We'll match whatever we're gonna put in on Church Street. If we're gonna put in 6 on Church Street, then we match it to 6 on Church Street, so we have a good solid loop instead of going oversized unnecessary pipe.
Yep, no, it's 8 inch on Church Street.
So if it's 8 inch on Church Street, we run the loop 8 inch down through
What's the,
all the way to,
Park, corner park and school.
what's the proposed pipe? Everything being put in is proposed 8 in the future?
With the
believe it's
exception
for
of West
fire
Street.
service.
West Street is 12.
Gotcha. I was just wondering what the loop was on School Street, that's all.
Right. Under
So
the new
that'll be 8 as well.
Right, under the new rules, Peter, if you have fire suppression, you can't have anything less than 8.
Right. So I would make a motion that we look for 2 quotes, one to do direct boring and one to do digging to replace what are we calling that street?
School Street
School
extension.
School Street extension from Park Place to Church Street with 8-inch water main.
Second.
There's a motion second. Any more discussion? The neighbors or anybody?
And who will be seeking the quotes?
Pick the engineer.
Steve, are you prepared to do that?
How soon do you need it?
Well, you have to do design first, right?
Right, that's kind of why.
Regardless.
There's a
Regardless
few
of
other-
regardless of whether we get the price or not, you have to do all the legwork.
Sure, I can do that. I've got a few balls in the air at the same time here, so I'm just kind of wondering what your timeline is.
Well, definitely want it done before winter.
Winter.
Right, which means you want to have design and pricing in 3 or 4 weeks. So-
Yes.
Is that doable, Steve?
Yes, and just so I'm clear, with the larger Bristol West project, you do not want to include any of this inside of Bristol West, because I've got to make some changes if that's your plan.
No.
Yes,
No,
I do.
Wait a minute.
I gotta just ask you this question, just to be like dumb question. If it's like $350 a foot and it's like 300-400 feet, you're talking over $100,000 project. Are you ready for that? To not be in your West Side project with potential grants?
Keep in mind too, Jill, you're right, but keep in mind too, that if you're gonna do this, you're gonna likely have survey involved in this, right? Somebody's gonna come out and have to survey all the existing lot locations, the easement, so they can write the easements. I'm just saying, and you've got legal costs in there, there's more to it than just what I'm probably gonna give you for a contractor's cost to install this, right? That's all.
I think we want to see the pricing first and then maybe make a decision about whether to include it in phase 2.
well, the pricing will be different if it's included in phase 2 or if it's a standalone project.
I know, but if it's 100,000, we may say we can't do that. But if it's 50,000,
We got $200 in petty cash.
I don't know if that's gonna be enough.
Like you do.
Okay.
But can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it worth just getting a price just to do the 400 feet? I mean,
And hook on to the rest
what's that?
later and hook on to going north later.
Yeah, but I mean, if you could do the
Yeah.
400 feet for 50,000 or the whole 800 feet or whatever for 100,000, I mean.
I mean, I think the first question I heard a couple people say is, does the board, maybe I'll entertain a motion, does the board believe that we own that water line? Or we're gonna own this water line?
I would say we do, and we're definitely going to. That would be, I mean,
Could I offer one suggestion? If it is a discussion about ownership, maybe consult with the town attorney. I mean, I've looked at the easements and I think Valerie has them. She can pull them up. There's some maps that came up from the 80s. And I am not an expert in that at all. I would just say it would probably worth your while to find out what his opinion is on whether or not you guys, as the town itself, actually own the easements up in there.
Well, we know we own down the
alleyway.
alleyway to the end of the first piece of property coming from the alleyway.
From the
Was
north.
it given to you or the school district?
It was given to the town.
I say we, Michelle worked diligently to get us the right of way for the alley.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the deed for,
Say up in the corner. All that shaded area is the deeded right of, not the.
No.
That's the road.
That's the
Oh,
right.
okay.
That's the roadway.
But there is a note up to the top left-hand
It
corner,
says common easement of
right?
right of way abutments to lands of operable of names. Doe in my Catholic diocese in Bristol School District.
So given the pricing, do we want to entertain Dale's question about just doing it for the full?
well, the legal aspect of it is a problem. We could come from the other way. It might be shorter.
From Church Street.
Yeah.
To where?
Oh, you're gonna have to do, you're talking about just coming to Dale's or all the way
Yeah,
through?
well, you come to Dale's, the first one in Dale's. Cause we have right of way to there. We know it. There's no legal problems there.
Still got to connect the services though.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of the shut off
Yeah.
from Church Street and who's affected by that.
So.
Can we not
so-
half job this?
So it
What's
seems
that?
like the next step is to get those quotes, see what we're
But
doing.
I think we should figure out what we want to do. Maybe. if-
Maybe we break it out into 3 sections, HTTP, conventional, and then just well, we'd have to go to the alleyway. If we've got to put a blow off or a flushing hydrant, we have to go all the way to the alleyway. So it's not in the middle of the road. Correct? I'm asking, Steve.
There's a stormwater line down the middle of that, which I'd want to look at. We need to be a minimum of 5 feet offset from the stormwater line. So I'm not sure we have enough room, and I just need to, I honestly have spent no time looking at that. That wasn't even a twinkle in my eye coming in.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is if we come from the south and we only go up to the alleyway, we have to go all the way to the alleyway in order to have a flushing hydrant that's not in the middle of the road.
Right. And if you're going to put an 8-inch in, you might as well put a real hydrant in.
So
So then the cost is right back up to going all the way.
So if MH Munsell used to feed that area back in the day, there's probably high probability that those pipes are still in use.
No, probably not.
no,
Because when everything
Sure
was
there's no
abandoned,
cross connection that might be weird coming off from Church Street to that area that is not showing up.
I am not sure.
Well, I just throwing it out there, that's all. Because I haven't seen that area of pipe myself. So I can't guarantee what may be coming off that, running down that alleyway. I've looked all over that spot for extra valves and curbs that don't add up and stuff like that, but it's hard because there's a lot of fence there with steel pipe in the ground as well. So I'm not really having much luck locating anything that may be odd or weird, but I know that I'm not the first person that's done this job, and I know that there's always things that you don't expect to happen when they happen, and just trying to mitigate as much as we possibly can, because you never know.
Okay, so let's do the 3. Let's do the 3. Eventually 2. Let's do 3, which is just to the alleyway.
Mhm.
My thinking is then we include down the alleyway connecting to church in the phase two. We
When
have
we
that
do,
line.
when we do church.
Yes, yes. Because as Dale says, if it's, with one's 100,000 and without that, it's 50,000, then we can actually do it.
But that would still require Steve to amend his plans and the permitting. If we're gonna include the alleyway
Correct,
at some point.
yes.
When that fate, yeah, Steve.
As part of that
Hold on.
project.
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
Just one more minute. Now, I know we're going from, 1.5 inch water line now, all of a sudden to an 8 inch. I mean, it's just like we've just gone from what's existed and worked for 100 years to something that's more than that. I mean, it's really only 4 places or 5 places that are on this water line. And I'm, maybe we just dig along the side of the road. I mean, we'd have to talk to everybody to see that, but I mean, my feelings are, there's probably no money to do this anyways. Why wouldn't we just go with a 4 inch line, service those buildings? They've been serviced for 100 years now, so why all of a sudden we're gonna go right to the Cadillac? I mean, I don't think, if for some reason that water has to get shut off for any length of time, I don't know that we need that other shut off on the other end. I don't know that we need the.
It's just better for the water system to have.
No, it probably is, but I don't know that there's.
And it's
we
working
even have
now.
Money to do this.
It's like when somebody has an operation, you know, you open them up, and the minute you open them up to all sorts of things. So that's, it's like if we open it up,
No, I understand.
it's like, you might as well just do it right.
Yes, exactly, Michelle.
But you also don't want your watch to fall into the person that you're opening up.
So what's your pleasure?
You know,
I hear what
so
Dale's
much
saying.
back out.
If we wanna go 300 feet for a 4 inch line to service 5 buildings,
I'm just thinking
Yeah.
the easiest, cheapest route to get out of this thing was there is not working anymore. It's worked for 100 years, so if we come in with some new, I only get to work another 30, 40, maybe 20 years, I don't know.
I'd like it to
Well,
work.
It's gonna be-
I'd like it to work for
Hopefully.
See,
30.
all of this requires legal work, because if we don't have an easement, whether we do it down the side of the road, whether we directional board, wherever, we still have to get easements, because it's a private roadway. You know, so it's not just,
All right.
it's just as.
Well, I
not
think
just
we
digging.
have our motion in a second, and I think, do you wanna amend your motion to add in just the section to the alleyway, or just have it? Can we do it where it's?
You said the
we can
word
just
8.
lop- We can lop
You wanna
off
amend that too?
however many feet of 8 inch from one of the quotes if we just wanna get to the alleyway, but I guess we're adding in the fire hydrant and stuff like that now.
Yeah. I don't see the need to have a fire hydrant there. There's one right on the corner of the park.
Right.
Well, isn't there also one right at the other end
Yeah,
by
Mary.
Church Street? So you
Yeah.
don't really need a
Don't need
hydrant
one up
there.
there, no. That
If you
building was
put it,
burning, no
if you
one's gonna
connect
look
it
up
and make it a loop, you don't need the fire hydrant, right?
No,
Okay.
Okay,
I wouldn't say, but
all right, so I think we have a motion.
So, figure, can.
Clarify what we're
Yeah,
asking.
cause I asked, after the second, I asked for comments, and then what was the directional bore or laid pipe of
yeah,
Both.
HP,
Yeah.
HDPE
HP
or
cast iron, or
Ductile.
blue boot, or whatever it's called, or dig it up, or directional bore, was that an
yes.
8 inch?
Two different
Can we
quotes.
also be specific that when we say HDPE, we mean fuse? We do not mean the kind that you put together with glue and use like little straps around, because that is not appropriate for the pressure in our water system.
No, I wouldn't think it would be.
Okay, I've seen it in a couple water systems not in Bristol, and it's really disappointing. It's very leaky.
So it's called fused?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fused.
So, before I accept the motion, Steve, have you got your you figure that out or no? I don't wanna leave you hanging.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna put it on paper. I think we're coming from the intersection of Park and School and running north, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
okay. Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Already.
So that was unanimous?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
15 minutes.
All right. Yeah, that was an hour.
thank you.
Saga continues.
Thank you. So we'll let you know when it's back on the agenda. All right.
Sorry, no resolution today.
Believe me, we wish it could be a fast fix, but it seems like the more
The more we dig,
Yeah,
the more we have to dig, no
Yes.
pun
I think the
intended.
right fix is the
Yes,
important
right.
thing. And I think long-term thinking is part of getting it right.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, you heard, yeah, the best thing to do is go from the park all the way to Church Street, but maybe we'll just go up what we need to repair for now, and
Yeah,
later on we'll dig back
Yeah.
to north.
Sense.
yeah.
That makes
So it's
sense.
a money thing.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, number two, preparation for the.
Thank
June-
you.
Thank you very much for coming. Preparation for the June 10th annual Water District and Sewer District Annual Meeting Public Hearing. Preliminary budget information, discussion of the alternative water rate structure, review of preliminary water use ordinance revision to address private water lines and other updates, and various other updates. I like that one.
I know,
Other than
yeah. So hopefully folks had a chance to glance at the draft sewer and water district budgets. Do you have a preference on which one you start with?
Pick one.
Sewer.
Let's do sewer, I think it'd be quicker.
Yeah.
We can flush that right down the drain real quick.
Okay, yeah. Pull that out.
District budget,
Oh.
and I have the sewer one here. somewhere.
Bear with me here for a moment.
Oh, that's the one. Sure.
Too many windows open.
No, I don't have the sewer one.
You're gonna put it up there anyway, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So there's the sewer budget. And as I noted on the spreadsheet, so this is the result of Jill's work, putting together a draft budget. I added this column to show where we are in the budget year. We're about 92% of the way through the budget year. We're in the 11th month, 12-month budget cycle. And so this gives us a metric on how we are comparing. So you can see we don't, and Jill helped me understand earlier today that there's still another billing cycle in the sewer and the water district. So these are not the final fiscal year numbers for the budget, but it gives you a snapshot of where we are. right
So when
now.
will that go out and when are the payments due?
So the next read is next week, and it takes about a week to do the full water read. I mean, the
Okay.
sewer read, technically, the sewer bill could go out sooner if we did the sewer read on the first day.
Okay.
But the water read takes about a week because there's a whole lot of them to touch. So it'd be like the week after, probably. So if I pull up my calendar, it would be.
So Jill, everybody gets their sewer bill, these businesses on Main Street, let's say the 20th of June, they cut you a check July 2nd. Does that go in next year's budget or this year's budget?
My understanding is that you guys are not cash basis, you're accrual basis. So it
So
means
that means June.
It goes into the 23-24 budget?
that's my understanding is that you're primarily accrual basis. So if the bill gets cut on June 20th, then it's this fiscal year. If the bill gets
Okay.
cut on July 2nd, it's next fiscal year. That's again, my understanding is that you're primarily accrual based and that you are some kind of modification for cash basis in certain spots, but I'm unaware of where those spots are.
So actual revenue so far is
So part of
49.
Yeah,
Or-
part of
wait a
what you're Yep.
The actual revenue user fees is 49,445. Is that for 3 years? Excuse me.
That's for
3
11
quarters or 11?
Right.
11 months.
11
I don't,
months.
I think it's 11 out of 12 periods, but I've got to make sure
Yes.
with Sharon that we're still missing one and that doesn't represent 12 out of 12 periods and that we're actually short. Because I don't do the billing, so I'm unaware of, I can't see the back end of any of this. I just get like a budget report.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that either for tonight.
I just,
No,
So we'll either
It's a
be
good
right
question.
on track or we'll be,
actually a little, it's comes up to 53,000 if you said divided by 3 and then times it by 12.
Right.
Mhm.
We're a little over. Revenue should be a little higher than what we anticipated.
So that's because we have
it's a good
another
thing.
bill. That's because we
Right,
have another
no,
bill
but-
going out.
No, the budget
We
was
budgeted
56.
50,572.
I see what you're saying,
56.
yeah.
Is that 56?
No.
56, 720.
Oh, I just took the top number, Peter. I didn't take
Yep.
the other.
Yeah, so your reimbursements for your exterior grease traps are about 50% billed. This is where I think maybe the fact that they're 25% collected, maybe this is cash basis and not accrual basis. It's odd to me. Because I know
The
that-
June invoice for the grease trap pumping has not gone out yet, so that would,
So
Yeah.
what Sharon told me is that they're on the even month. So 8, 10, 12, those 3 got sent to the 4 exterior grease traps, and then they're gonna get a 2, a 4, and a 6. So they're getting 2 bills for 3 bi-monthly pump outs. And
Right.
one of the three periods have been sent, and the second 3 period will go out after the June pump out. So I think that 60/48 should be pretty well in out as far as accrual basis is concerned, once that second set of bills goes out in June.
So do I see total expenses as a 0% change in the budget?
Yeah,
Or-
because you wanna know why? Here's the good news. Your capital, your bond payments end after this year on your project. So I just put the rest of that bond payment into your capital reserve fund and only bumped up the 2 that needed a little bit more income,
Mhm.
which is good, because if you looked at the annual report that Steve put together that will get submitted to the state shortly, there's some work to do at the sewer, like the dosing siphon counters have been non-functional for a very long time. And it leaves the ability to continue to put money into the capital reserve fund should capital improvements of more significant value need to be made at your field that is from, I think, like 1994, 93 or 94. So you're a little over
So-
50 years old.
If we wanted to bump that capital reserve fund up to, let's shoot a number here, $3,200 more or so, or $2,200 more, $2,200 more.
Yep.
What does that increase our percentage in our budget, Valerie?
All she's got to do is just change a couple numbers and you'll have it.
So you increase it by what?
Just
Up
make it
maybe
15,000.
Instead of 12,700 it was, or
So what would be the addition,
$2,200.
sort of?
Yep. That was pretty darn close.
3.9%.
Okay, so then you'd have to increase your user fees 3.9%.
3.9%.
Well, why I say that was because I took the 49,445 and divided by 11 and times it by 12, and that gives us about $3,000 more than what we've got, 3,300 more than we've got budgeted for next year of 50,572. That's just saying everybody's sewer payments about average every month. All 40 users or 30 odd users. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not reading any more into it. But on the revenue side, it means we picked up more revenue than we budgeted for. That's where I'm going with that.
It's just weird because when I looked at the sewer flows, they didn't really seem to be that much greater this year. I mean, the lowest year that we had was during the COVID year. That was when our flows came down because a bunch of the restaurants closed down for quite a while and then they opened back up really slowly. But
Now, you told me that 49,445 was 11 reads and we're doing one more read. All I did was strictly math, divide it by 11 and times it by 12, and it increased it by $3,000.
yeah, so what I'm
That's
saying is,
why, that's why I added 3,000 or almost 2,500, 2,200 into that capital reserve.
Yeah, we can do that. You gotta up this by that 3.9%.
I think it's there anyway.
I don't think it
I
is.
think we
Well,
should
we have
probably
to
just
make the
confirm
numbers.
to make sure that that's actually not 12 billing cycles and then that's really just
Right.
11 billing cycles.
I was going by
That would
11.
increase it by 1972.30 for that one. No, for the one up, for the top one, the user fees,
Oh,
Yep.
up here,
Times
Yeah.
7.
how much?
1972.30, 31, I guess.
Oops. Yeah.
Well, so do we need to revisit this if we don't actually know if these are the right figures? If it's,
Cause if they're 12 months, we're short.
yeah.
Right.
Well,
So,
see, that's one of the values of having this, going through this exercise now, so that we can know for next Monday.
Yeah.
We can.
Correct. I don't,
Okay, well, that doesn't come up right top to bottom, so.
I mean,
something
I
didn't
agree.
work out right.
If that 49,445 is 12 months, then no, I don't want to add 2,200 to that capital reserve. I was just thinking we've got more repairs later on coming down. If capital doesn't have to spend it in that year, we'll have it.
Well, we're only putting 1,100 in our capital reserve. That's not gonna cover much. Something happens.
I put another 2,200 into it, Michelle.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying,
Right.
before, we were only putting $1,100 in there.
I don't think a 3.9% increase in the sewer rates is drastic.
Well,
But we're gonna do with water too.
no, if we end up figuring out that we're gonna change our ordinance based on BOD
HRUs, no, BOD.
and charge more or make them eliminate it, then there's gonna be quite an expense to some of these
Okay.
outfits.
You're absolutely right, Peter.
Yeah, but are we gonna know that by the time we do our
Yeah.
annual meeting?
And we're
No,
not
we're
gonna know by
not.
next Monday. We'll know by late this year, or early next year, depending on
Right.
where everything
So
goes.
we may not do it till June of 2025 then. But
That's a
Also,
possibility.
for some of these, like FICA, health insurance, retirement, disability, those can't be the same percentage, right? They're always higher.
I believe those represent mine and Sharon's admin time. I think 2% of our salaries and benefits get allocated to the water and sewer district.
But it can't be zero though, right? They either go down or go up. If we're basing it
I think
on
they budgeted
all of
the
our
same.
other
Right.
budgeting,
Right.
they can't be 0%. We
Right.
can't put them in the same price. There's gonna be some difference. I mean, already looking in here, health insurance is 500. We've already spent 564.
Mhm.
So we're budgeting 500. So we need to bump those numbers, the ones that are out of our control,
Right.
which we should
I hear what
be
you're saying.
being pulled in
Yeah.
automatically. I
Well,
mean,
there's
there's
nothing
small changes,
Okay,
but
so there's nothing coming out of retirement in here, so,
yeah.
I mean, either that's not being done or something.
I think that would be something that Valerie would have to do, because I don't have access to
Right.
Right.
zero costs or anything like that. I can only just take a budget report from last year
Yeah.
and select the changes that I know are applicable to things that I have
What
no.
did,
Right.
Valerie, did we have any increase in sewer budget last year? In
No,
the sewer rates? When's the last time we've
Well,
increased the
the
rates?
sewer
Anybody know?
rate.
Yeah, because we hadn't, wasn't that the snafu where we hadn't added it, or was that the
That
water?
was
Well,
water.
didn't get-
That was the water.
One of them didn't get added, Peter.
That was the
Right.
water.
And we do plan on, this year, do we plan on billing now for, grease traps?
I don't think we're
We said the
changing
ones
it.
that don't have grease, don't serve food, you
Right,
know?
right.
The salon, the bank and those types and central reading and, or recycle reading in those stores.
Salon has a lot of hair products that could cause the same type
It
of
could,
thing, so.
could, but, you know, I'm
Phosphorus.
just saying the ones that don't have that stuff are gonna see a little bit of increase, but I thought we were gonna individually charge the grease trap.
We are.
We are.
We do.
Yeah,
We already
right,
do
we
that.
are doing that now.
Yeah.
But not of them all are on grease traps, so,
Right, so there's only 4
but more than 4.
exterior.
Right.
Just the exterior ones we're billing, because that's the one the system hasn't paid for.
What's the board feel about, oh, we can look, we don't have to vote tonight, but is a 3.9%? We didn't have an increase last year in the sewer budget.
Something's wrong, Val, because it doesn't equal
Right.
top to the bottom,
I
so
know.
that 3.9% didn't work right or something.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, if you tell me
because you
that's
have,
13.9% increase, and I'll probably 58,
Yeah.
56, yeah,
you've got to get to 58,920. So you got to take
Right.
6,720 and subtract 58,920 and add that to your top user fee. So you go 58,920 minus 56,720 is you add 2,200. Yeah, that should work. 58,920, 58,920. Yeah, it's a 4.4% increase in user fees because a portion of your revenues are your reimbursable grease trap expenditure.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So it's actually a 4.4% increase on user fees. to achieve a 3.9% increase in all expenses.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're gonna find those numbers are gonna go up, so it's gonna be even more,
Which numbers?
the insurance.
The insurance and that, yeah.
Right, right.
You know, we could all take it, you know, we don't have to put 2,200 more in the capital reserve. We could put,
We're already putting $12,000 more than what we used to, or 11,000.
11,000, yeah.
yep,
No,
but we, as Jill said in her report, or Valerie said in their TA report, we got an old system down there. And
Yeah,
we've got to
30
put some
years.
money in it.
Yeah.
We've been recommended to do several things year after year after year, but there hasn't been enough money to even consider trying to replace the dosing siphon counters, because it's an expensive project. They're cast into the concrete. And trying to do a retrofit is gonna involve doing working with some type of contractor to invent a retrofit, which would probably be a lot less expensive than replacing concrete structures. However, we don't know exactly what exists yet in the market.
You hire somebody to sit down there and count every time it flushes.
I think we need a history of our sewer charges.
Yep.
So we can see and get a better picture of how we're gonna increase it over time. If we don't have that history, I think it's gonna be very difficult to sort of figure out what we're doing.
It's our understanding, we learned last year that some of the rate increases that were voted in weren't actually implemented in the system.
I thought that was the water system, not the sewer system.
I think, well, I think both. And the sewer system formula is an Excel spreadsheet. And so I think last year when we went through this process, all the corrections were made and updated, but in terms of a history and
The history might be accurate.
it might not be accurate because
We
the
should-
actual bill.
I mean, there should be kind of,
History.
to me, like a jump system of, okay,
Right. I
so
don't
there's
know
this
why-
year, 2 years from now, you
Right.
do this, 2 years. It's like
Like
anybody
inflation.
increasing their service fees, like every year, we
Cost of
increase it
living.
by,
Yeah.
3%, 5%, whatever it is. You
Is there
know,
a-
that should happen.
Yes. Is there a reason we haven't been doing it that way?
That's what you're.
I think because we always thought that sewer was expensive to start with, so we tried to keep the money where. I mean, the idea was that the Main Street businesses are struggling already.
Yeah.
And if we go and tack more on,
Yeah, because they pay water, police district and town
Right.
as well.
But their business wouldn't be there without those things.
yeah, you're
So,
absolutely
You
correct.
know, and now we know, given the issues that we're having, I mean, it's a multitude of issues.
I
I
just,
think we need to get that plan in place. Same with water. I mean, we know.
well,
we have to do
I'm
that
a
for
little
water.
nervous if we're gonna rewrite the ordinance to deal with the BOD, then how much of an increase do we wanna? Well,
Well,
that'll be
that-
just the people that are,
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna have that ready for this year.
no, we're
Yeah.
not gonna, but it's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
come as a, if we raise them, say we end up raising them 5% this year. Cause like Jill said, this is a 4.4, Jill,
Yeah.
it's a 4.4 increase, not a 3.9.
I understand that,
Which-
but have you seen the Middlebury sewer charges?
I haven't. I haven't.
It's like,
And their water.
this is, I know, this is cheap.
And another way to look,
5 full-time people and their budget for water is 3 million a year.
Right?
And
I
they
mean, they
have
have
full
certainly
5 in
bigger.
water too. Wow.
yeah. Another way to look at this, when we do get a better handle on managing the BOD, and we have measures in place to have it pre-treated before it enters the system, which is likely to require some investment on the property owner's parts.
Yeah.
And that'll reduce ultimately the ongoing.
Additional charges.
Maintenance requirements, that it might balance out that way, that we might not need to increase the rates drastically, but putting that financial, for lack of a better word, burden on the property owners to make those improvements.
Yeah, I mean, without the sewer, if
They-
it fails,
Yeah,
they're
they
done.
can't.
Yeah,
I I mean, we gotta, to me, we gotta look out to, okay,
Right.
what's the preventative, what's the future plan, how do we maintain it for them?
And then also equity, because the folks that are producing the BOD should be bearing the responsibility,
Right, not
not,
everybody.
not the other ratepayers that are not contributing to it. So we
Yeah,
need to
and so-
sort that out and really shift the responsibility where it belongs.
And that's what, you know, what we're doing here with
We
these
started to
increases,
do
we're
that
hitting it, we're
With
hitting
the
everybody.
exterior traps.
But
And
a
we
little-
sent out a memo back then, November of 22, I think it was, laying the groundwork for going in this direction and explaining the importance of controlling that material and the consequence if we don't. So we started.
To the consequences.
So what's your thoughts then, people? We wanna,
Well, we need two answers. We need the highlighted area filled in,
Mhm.
and we need to know whether we're
what was that 11 months or
11
12?
months or 12.
Right.
And do we, I guess Valerie then put back the $15,019, $15,019.
It's
Change
already
that.
there.
No, put it back to 12, what Joe put it in for. And what does that, is that 0%?
No,
Yeah, no.
I thought it was a
Yeah,
zero.
it's zero.
it is, but it won't be.
If I'm just going back to Peter, but we've added that on my, just not a suggestion, just for maintenance,
I would
future
just leave
maintenance.
that in there,
Okay,
leave those numbers in there and just see
The
what,
22s?
yeah, just leave it the way it was and see.
$15,019.
When she gets that information, we can then readjust it.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah,
We also need to confirm that we're on accrual.
Yeah.
And where the
Right.
money goes,
so
Mhm.
so we need to have Justin involved with that.
so we gotta answer the health insurance and retirement, those yellow ones. Gotta answer that 11 months or 12 up there and
Accrual.
an accrual
cash.
question.
Mhm.
And if everybody pays their bill July 2nd, does that go in next year's budget?
Okay, good.
Okay, we done with that
Thank
one?
you. Thank you, yes.
Steve, we didn't ask, do you have anything to comment? Equipment or wise down there or anything? Sorry, kept you out of the loop.
Nope, sorry, I've got my mouth full of cookies. I apologize. No, I'm all set.
You're not sharing?
You got some Palmer ice, you got some Palmer, maple syrup on that ice cream and cookies or no? Just cookies tonight?
Strange questions.
Okay, let's do the water budget.
Okay, hang on. All right, so again,
One's
this,
going the opposite direction. This one's not losing a bond payment, it's gaining one.
Right, right.
Yeah.
and there it is. There's the bond payment. Yep.
Let's all change that first one to a 2 because we're gonna do school tree next year.
So with this, are we asking the same questions? Whether we've received our,
Right, how many
11 or
payments are
12,
reflected
whether
in
we're
this?
accrual?
Right, same
Yeah.
questions. And.
Okay.
That's truly,
and
yeah,
the
that's
same
truly
questions
three.
about-
Jill's got her hand up, 3 payments.
That's truly 3 billing cycles and we've only billed 91.67% of what we should have in our first 3 quarters, so water use and or consumption and or measurable consumption is down versus projections for last year's rate increase.
So we've done 3 readings of 72.9%.
We've done 75% of the readings. We've earned 72%, 72.09% of the expected
Okay.
revenues. Yep.
Close there.
I don't know how much of that is reflected in delinquent,
Again, I don't know if you're accrual or cash based.
right?
We haven't had any service connection fees.
See, this is
Well,
what's
that's-
weird.
What's that, Jill?
This is what's weird is that I could swear we've had. Oh,
Right.
maybe it's because everybody's applied and they've come to these meetings, but nobody's paid for anything. So your ordinance says that they have to pay when they apply. And nobody's ever done it that way. It's
Yeah.
always been that they don't pay until they actually make the connection.
Okay, we need to change that, make sure that's followed up.
Well, also, I looked into what constitutes this miscellaneous revenue, and there is one new connection in that figure, over on Pleasant Street. And the other one, another one, almost $1,000 of that is the Lincoln,
The Sugarwood
the
revenue.
sugar,
I
yeah,
was gonna say, they're usually pretty good about paying us.
right,
He paid that over 2 years, but I
Right.
don't think he paid us anything the year before,
right.
or just caught both years.
And technically, even though we budget for water connections, because we expect at least one a year to come through, which is generally what's been happening, that revenue really should just be going straight into the capital reserve fund. It shouldn't even be coming through the operating
budget.
budget. Yeah, because for one thing, it's unpredictable. And the purpose of the connection fee really is to support capital improvements ultimately.
Was it?
Yeah.
Jill, was the Firehouse Drive Apartments, was that last year
Oh, that was
connected or 2 years
2
ago?
years ago.
What
years
about the wind solar place? Was that
Blue
last
Star.
year? Blue Force, was that this was past year?
the big red building. That was that they connected last year because I remember helping with the meter. I don't know
Is that
when
the
they
only
did their connection fee though.
Was that
There's-
their connection?
Yeah.
Was that
I mean,
the only
you
connection we
had one-
had?
You had one on West Pleasant at the end of West Pleasant near Liberty.
Right, that was Vrooman,
Romans,
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
reflected in this number,
500.
yeah.
That's I
Then there
remember.
was but that house, the one on Maple.
That was the
new
year
house.
before.
The new house, the dentist house.
So it could be that
I don't know who
all
did
the
that.
other connection fees did go in the capital reserve fund, and this one just didn't, but that's where it should go.
But doesn't.
But then
I
it
don't
should
disagree
show
with you,
up, then it
but
should
should-
show up down
then we never
under
know how
capital
many
reserve,
fees we-
right?
I mean, then Valerie, we won't know what to set the fee, because we won't know how many we had, do we?
It's a $500 fee plus the actual expenses of the installation. So it's a $500 baseline fee, and
Right, but if we have water service connection fee 0 going down
or
through.
just take that line.
Yeah, but
item,
it should
just-
come here,
just-
it should show up as a capital
Well,
improvement
actually-
deposit.
Not necessarily, because
Is it a capital?
Well, you gotta keep track of it somewhere, don't
Gotta
you?
keep
in
track
the
of something,
capital
that's what-
reserve account.
Mhm.
But the line down here for capital improvements is the expense to the operating budget of contributing to that fund. That's what that should
Mhm.
represent. And the reason I have this $81,000 highlighted is because that reflects, as Jill noted, the loan to Lawson Lane. And that whole $22,000 or $23,000 expense should have come out of the capital reserve fund just directly. It shouldn't have even hit this operating budget.
Oh my God,
So
this
we
is
need
so
to-
confusing.
We need to
Yes.
make that adjustment before next Monday,
Yeah,
and we will, but this all just came,
Speaking of Lawson Lane, do they get as part of their water bill, they're getting the charge in there for the
there's a separate payment
separate
agreement.
payment
Yeah,
plan? Okay.
each one has a separate agreement.
Are they being paid?
I don't recall what the answer is to that, but we'll find out. for-
you mentioned in your TA report about, because of the new reassessment, Lincoln, should we bump that from 450 to
Right.
600 or 650? Couple $100. I know it's still
Yeah,
in the,
Well, it depends on what everybody else went on.
well, yeah, but it's still part of the state's
current
Current
use.
current use
Mm.
program, still in the current use program. So,
Mhm.
but should you add at least $50 to it?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, just in case. 'Cause we
I
don't
think
know.
that's where you were going with that question.
Mhm.
I mean, if everything else went up, our taxes might not go up.
There, it could be a wash.
Now, under expenses, I see here Vermont Water System fee. We budgeted 3,500 and it was 5,200 this year, 149% increase.
We
So-
are producing a lot of water at the plant right now. So next week on the
So that's
11th,
based on gallons, Joe? That's based on
whatever
gallons?
it's not consumption, it's production. When we submit our monthly operators report, which is every single day's production, that month's worth of production, the state sends you a bill.
Hmm.
Oh,
So
you
take
mean,
take the
9 million
counters out of the Dowson siphon and put down there and put those counters in the.
I know, we definitely need a better meter that underreads more at production.
What's for the electricity, the pump? Why
Same
the
thing.
big,
It's because we have leaks still. So South Street is getting repaired next Tuesday. That's where we're gonna have a shutdown of that section of the road. So we've had discussions with Eric, and other staff members to just kind of wrap our heads around. We've talked to the lumberyard, etc. So we're getting ready to repair what we believe to be a pretty significant leak between the apartments on South Street, and it's right in the middle of the road.
was that leak already happening the year before? I don't remember a huge jump in the pumping time.
Yep, that leak was identified last spring when we had Alan come up and figure out why in the heck we had such massive water over the winter time.
Got it.
That repair wasn't undertaken last year for a number of reasons. Now we're prepared to shut the road down and go for it and do it before the end of this fiscal year, since we have the budget and the weather and the patience to go for it.
So given that, do we need to budget 35,000 if it's a leak that we're going to fix? Do we assume that we're gonna be paying that much again for the next year's budget?
I would hope that we wouldn't. I mean, it would be lovely to get back to only making 4 or 5 million gallons a month in the summertime,
Yeah,
because we're at like 9 right now. And we're at like 11 or so, 11 million to 12 million a month in the winter. So, you can put a smaller number there, but if the other leaks pop up in the system that we're not able to see or find, and another leak detection has to be done to find them, and then repairs have to be done to get the leaks to go away, it's gonna end up, I guess I need to ask you guys that question. If the electricity cost goes down, but another leak is found and the repair cost goes up, does it all wash out in the end? Or is it more of like trying to project perfection in the budget?
The bottom line is the bottom line.
Okay, that's what I had to
That's,
ask.
no, well, it is, because it's a,
But it would be nice to get the budget to perfection.
Yes.
No.
I mean, we know the budget's gonna be flexible,
Right.
but if we're saying what we've used in the past year is $34,000, and it's because we know it's a leak that happened in this past year, and if we fix that leak, it seems like we shouldn't need to budget $35,000 for next year, which adds in another 34.6%. It's a huge chunk.
Yep.
If it's based on the leak, you know, we didn't budget 34% higher last year because we didn't know that we would have a leak there. So it seems to me we can put that down to what our yearly actual is, or close to it.
Or maybe go down, split the difference and go 30,000 there. I hear what you're saying, Ian. And, you know, we went from 26 to 35 and just, we get that leak fixed, maybe we could go down to 32,000.
I mean, I think it doesn't really matter, but I mean, it matters in terms of matching what we're actually using, but I think those jumps for leaks, I think we just have to accommodate those within the whole scope of the budget, in other areas.
I mean, if fixing the leaks truly fixes them and the water production can come down, you're gonna see a savings in your electricity, your chemicals, and your charge from the state.
Yeah. Right, I think we should, it's the same if you have, I don't know, postage supplies were $10,000 this year, you know, extra. We don't necessarily need to put it up because it was a one-time thing. I guess if we knew, I mean, we don't know, but if you knew that, yeah, we're leaking like a sieve, and so we just need to.
well, it's underground, we can't really tell.
Well, it seems like if we get the South Street leak and the School Street leak dealt with
Right.
this year, those could be a pretty big achievements.
Yeah,
Exactly, and there's one other that we're targeting that may or may not be completely, it may have been that we fixed it last summer because it was a leak heard at the intersection of Taylor and Pleasant. But we've fixed one a little bit further west, down Pleasant. So it could be that one was being heard all the way down at the valve, or it could be that there is another one closer to the valve or a service located nearby. The leak report says, or adjacent to. It wasn't.
after you replace that just west of the Taylor Avenue, Pleasant Street, I know where you dug there, by Ed Hilworth's old place, Peter Ryan's. Did you go back and listen to the valve, and was there less screaming in it, or did we
Yeah.
ever listen?
No, Cyrus has listened to it like 5 times since then, and he's like, I don't hear what I heard before. So
Okay.
we don't think that one's the smoking gun. We know South Street is. We know that there's the old yucky galvanized line and a definite galvanized leaky service line on School. So those are pretty high priority. Because it'd be really great to get that water production number down.
What does the board think about, I mean, that's not a lot of money, but we're looking at a 13.9% total expenses, right, increase? What if we went building and overhead and maintenance, we budgeted 6,600 and spent 24. And we budget again next year 6,600. What if we cut that down to $5,000? It's still double what we've already spent.
Well, that's fine if you cut that down, but then if you look at the next line, compliance testing, we overspent this year. I can't
Well,
imagine it's gonna be cheaper next year.
No, but we'll deal with that line when line by line. I get what you're saying, Michelle, but do we need to budget 6,600 when we didn't even spend half that? In 3 more weeks, are we gonna spend that?
Can you see back any further, Valerie?
In what way?
Like prior years.
That particular spreadsheet that was sent to me in February with budget adjustments didn't have all the other tabs. So I have older ones in my files that have the other tabs.
I can find older ones.
Don't get me wrong, we have some of the cheapest water rates, I'm not saying that, but we've got a bond payment coming that's gonna. And we wanna do more improvements in years to come. And if we keep
Another-
getting promises from the state that we don't get.
I have another
this
question
is gonna
too.
continue to go up. Go ahead, Joe.
Process wise, let's say like for the last 20 years that the water department proposes a budget that the income's going to be, I'm just going to use round numbers, 300,000 and the expense is going to be 300,000. Say the income comes in at 300,000, the expense comes in at 280. Let's say it's the same thing every single year. Where does the other 20,000 go?
I don't know, Valerie got a new hybrid.
Is that the unassigned funds? that
Yeah,
goes
because
to?
I honestly think that we often underspend in water and sewer, and that the only part that I see go into the capital is the part that's allocated to capital. So like, I'm just curious, like, where does the unspent go?
Undesignated fund balance.
Well, there shouldn't be an undesignated fund balance here because it's an enterprise fund, so whatever money is here stays here.
The treasurer would know the answer to that.
Right, but
We don't know.
I hear what she's saying. Here come August 1st, and we said we just want an audit of the water department, and all the bills have been paid. What do we spend for expenses and what do we take in for revenue? And we got.
Well, where's
20,000
last year's actual?
We got $20,000 left over. Where's that money go?
I'm just curious, like
2021, just scroll down a little more.
the
No,
process.
Jill, there should be,
Just a hair more.
there should be additional money for the water department.
6,600.
In its own,
1,500,
in its
2,200
own
and 3,200.
area that should account for all the revenue that isn't
You gotta go
spent,
one more line.
or all the
Well, what are you
expenses
looking
that
at?
aren't.
Right there,
That's
the
the
bottom line.
Oh,
Yep,
bottom.
no, right there. 30. So the budget was 32 and the 322 and the actual was 303, so there's 20 grand there.
And then
The
328
following
to
year was
296.
296 versus 300,
So there's,
No, versus
or
328.
339 versus 296. So there's another 45
No,
years.
you're looking the wrong way.
But also
It's
too, we
sorry.
339 to 300.
we
so
can't, the reason we don't know the numbers is because we're doing all this based on spreadsheets. We need to use NEMRIC, which is the system that has all of our accounting in. That's how we pull the numbers from that.
These numbers come from Denmark.
I know, but I don't, there have been so many times where we've looked at these documents and they've been wrong. And I just cannot trust them anymore. I mean, literally, you're showing us these documents and we already had like 6 or 7 questions that you need to ask where they should have been filled in. There can't be missing holes in here. And we should already know whether it's accrual. Like, I think we should know all these things. And I feel like this is an opportunity to move away to a system that is actually accurate. Because I don't think I'm prepared to look at numbers where they're not accurate anymore. It just wastes so much time.
Well, can you put that back a minute, you guys? I'm sorry. I want to speak on what you're saying, Ian. I don't disagree with you a bit, but let's take the 2 columns Peter asked about. 22-23 budgeted, 339.5. And then 22-23 actual, our expenses. So our budgeted is what we raised our revenue on.
Yes.
So we took that in revenue? Or did we have less water reuse in 22-23?
Yeah, we need to look at that number too. The
Total
actual
revenues was
layer.
342.
So
Total
we
revenue?
took in more revenue than we budgeted for,
And we
and spent less.
Right.
So where's
So
the
where is the $42,000?
undesignated fund?
That's the unassigned fund balance.
Right.
But that shouldn't be in the,
Because it's separate.
But it's,
it's separate money. It's
Right.
not, it's not.
Not the town of
But
Bristol.
not
it's
general
the
fund.
water
It's the concept.
unassigned.
right.
Yeah,
Fund.
It's not the
the-
general fund, get
Right,
that.
it's
This
the
is what I'm
water.
getting back to.
But we've never actually talked about a water unassigned.
And in the audit, for the 2022 audit, the auditors, for some magical reason, combined water and sewer undesignated fund balances.
Okay,
They did list it, it was like 300 something thousand.
but we've never used those.
No,
No,
So
but
What's
it
the,
should be available somehow.
well, that's the question, going back to Ian's
Mhm.
frustration,
Mhm.
is instead of, we're looking at a 13% increase here right now. We
Mhm.
haven't voted budget yet. Could we reach and grab some of that to
Yes.
make that original payment, this due bond payment? And maybe make this a 8% or a
Right.
6%? And we don't know that because we're sitting here guessing again.
yes.
That's,
I
that's
think
really,
we-
that's, yeah, that's what my honest question is like, if there's undesignated fund balances for water, if we could find them and we could use them to offset the final loan from the state, I
Mhm.
would encourage it. Because it would be nicer to have this come in like a smooth landing than a peak.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though these are numbers from memory, because it's a spreadsheet, there's no history. It's just what you plug in and you can't go back. You can scroll back into a column that you've hidden, but it's not a true recorded
Is
history.
a natural column.
No,
That's the question.
but it doesn't matter.
I think it's this question you're asking.
And also too, the idea that you're taking the NEMRIC numbers and plugging them into a spreadsheet, which can't give you a history of what's going on. I think that's where we're failing in terms of figuring some of this stuff out. Is that it's all reliant on spreadsheets that are just completely unconnected to anything.
Yeah, so like I got spoiled in my career as a CFO and that I had accounting software where everything was always posted into periods and I could run reports for as long as the software had lived and see things for a day, a year, a month, a particular period. I have the same thing for my business, a simpler piece of accounting software. I think it is a challenge with your accounting software to run similar types of programs. Or similar types of reporting, but I would love to know if there's undesignated fund balances for water that could be found and utilized to offset the loan, because I also think that the current offer on the loan expires after the end of June, because they will reallocate that to other communities if we don't choose to utilize that loan that was offered to us.
but if we use the unassigned fund balance to pay that loan down or whatever you're talking about, then what happens next year? I mean,
It
you're still
doesn't-
gonna have that payment.
You're still gonna have the payment, but it's not gonna be 34,000. It might be 30,000 for the next.
I mean, yeah, they might say, they're saying you're eligible for a loan for up to $740,000 of project costs, and you could say, cool, we would like to borrow 400,000 as we have undesignated fund balances that we will reimburse ourselves with for the remainder. Or you could continue to borrow it and you could put your undesignated fund balances into your capital equipment fund and use it to offset your new surprises in the future.
So your question, Jill,
School Street Extension.
Justin, the treasurer, should be able to run those reports in NEMRIC for you.
I mean, for everybody. I'm so curious, where's the money going?
Yes,
Yep.
and we should run those reports.
We
Well, it
might
should
not-
be in it.
We might not have that quite yet.
Yeah,
I mean, they're still working on them, right?
No, I
well,
know.
that's, well, that's
So-
true.
But I mean, that's where you get that information. That's the only place you can get that information.
But there can't be $500,000 sitting there that, there can't be that kind
Well,
of money.
I bet you
Surprising
there
things
is.
have happened in the last.
Yeah,
few
but we
months.
don't have that much money in our accounts. is
Yeah,
what I'm
what the
saying.
actual bank accounts
Yeah,
tell us.
The actual bank accounts.
Right,
The actual bank accounts, that money is all accounted for. So where is,
Right,
so
well,
where is this?
So perhaps the potential is that the undesignated fund, in terms of the larger one, some of that should have been allocated to the water district and wasn't.
It went to the general fund
Correct.
and it should be.
Yes, because we
Because
haven't,
it's
we haven't-
separate money.
that's right, we haven't been tracking it.
So we may
correctly.
owe, the general fund may owe the water district.
Potentially, but
I mean,
don't know.
but this is the whole thing we've always had a problem with. We never get definitive unassigned fund number.
Well, this should be pretty simple because it's an enterprise fund.
Right. But I mean,
I mean, it's what we
If
spend and it's
everything's-
what we take in.
Well,
And
if
Yeah,
everything is
but-
correct in NEMA, you can get exactly that number.
And-
It doesn't require the auditors. If everything is working correctly in our system, you should be able to run a report and be able to get those kind of numbers, because you'll know exactly what you've spent. That's the idea, and we've never had that, unfortunately, but we're working towards that.
So where do we wanna go here, people? Next Monday is our annual meeting
No, I know.
for the water department. We need some answers. The water for,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know, whether
again,
we're gonna
we-
raise the rates or
well,
not.
again, we have to look at all the salaries, the Medicare, the insurance, the disability, because those are all the same.
And it'd be nice to see that what we've done for rates prior to this too, and I don't know where that history is.
so,
Hold on.
I think we need to up the compliance testing. Jill, that number's not going down, is it? I mean, we've spent 2,200 this year on compliance testing. It's not like it's gonna stay
it'll
at
go down
2,000.
if the
Because-
water, if the pump numbers go
Um,
down.
Yeah, so the PFAS, the PFAS tests are still super expensive. You guys have 2 routine coliforms. Some years you have lead and copper every 3. VOCs, you are, VOCs, SOCs, and one other inorganic IOCs. We have all the waivers that we're allowed to have, but it's either 3, 6, or 9 years, depending. Again, those are the ones that aren't like your regular routine coliforms are $25. There's 2 a month. It's the VOCs, IOCs, SOCs, your PFASs. Those are the really expensive ones. Those are like 500, 600.
So, Michelle, question, let's get to the question.
Here, and my suggestion is,
2,500?
I
Yeah.
would put the building overhead and maintenance down to 5,600 and put that other $1,000
There you
in
go.
compliance
I was
testing.
gonna do 5
I
and
would
6.
too.
Lower that
Yep,
to
I would too.
6,000.
And
And then what
especially
if we just- Go on, Jill, sorry.
the feds just lowered their PFAS limits from 200
Of
to
course they
4.
do.
They lowered it to 4. The state of Vermont is at 20. So we still are not above that number, but it's like, we're still not detect in Bristol, which is wonderful, but there's like 68 water systems in the state that now have till 2029 to put in treatment. So
So you wanted 3,000 there, Michelle?
3,000 in compliance testing, yeah.
thanks.
So There's just water over the dam there, there's no
Yeah.
difference. But it's still, it gets it correct, I agree.
So you wanna put the property tax up to 500, is that what you're doing for Lincoln?
And then we'll also adjust these figures.
Yeah.
Is
And
it, is it gonna be 500 or is it gonna be?
I don't,
We don't.
it may be a wash, it just depends on.
With
how
a
that-
capital, you know, current use program, it may be, but I think you gotta go up at least $50.
So what are people's thoughts on the electricity use, given that that's 34%?
I'd almost be willing to put it down to 30, but, you know, we may pay for it, you know,
Well,
if we do have a
which
leak.
is fine, I mean,
Right.
it's,
I was thinking 32, but yeah, Michelle, do you think?
Well, it was 26, we went to 34, but we had some major leaks, so.
I'm thinking there is a couple of increases in the electrical use anyway, whether we were no increase, you know.
well,
no
also we have
usage.
new connections, all earth renewables, the apartments, and other ones
So
coming
we are gonna
online.
use more water.
So, and more
Yeah,
are gonna be
so
coming
maybe
online.
32? Or 34?
Oh, so you're saying we're gonna use more
Just,
electricity for
just
the
because of
pump?
the
Just
system
because-
expanding.
Pumping more.
Because of the,
Yeah.
the increase in the water usage, and put it to 32.
And some of that 34 might be, are we 2 years now, Michelle or Jill, on Woodland Apartments? Is this the second year?
Oh, it's like 4.
Is it 4 years
Yeah,
already?
At least
Oh, yeah.
4.
Oh, boy,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm waiting for them to come back on the regular rate sheet so that everybody can be billed the same.
Yeah, that's one more year, right? 5 years or 10 years?
10.
10 years, so.
10. That's
What
a
were we
lot.
thinking?
We sold a lot of water to them though.
Mhm.
Yeah, they could have drilled a well.
Let's see.
So,
The other thing,
bottom line-
Valerie, was the current bond and note payments were 70. The new bond is like 34. How did we get 111? Is there something else in there, or is that actually a lower number?
Because one of the planning loans got forgiven.
Okay, so 70,000 plus 34,000. What's the new payment?
I know the reservoir.
That's 104.
I know
That's
the
what I'm
reservoir.
saying. I think this can go down to 104.
Hang on, let me,
Is there something else for 7?
Figure, truck my memory here. The water tank on the hill is like, bond doesn't end until 2030, I believe, but I
I
thought,
have no idea.
I thought North Street was done. North
Valerie,
Street, Plank
wait,
Road.
there's a spreadsheet on it now.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Yeah.
70 plus 34 is 104.
2030 just sticks in my mind about the water tower. It was like 50-year bond. 40-year
I
bond.
would want to cry.
So, hang on. here
Imagine
we
a
go.
50-year bond.
So these are the water system loans.
34,002.93. Okay, I did see that 111, 698.88. Okay, how
The
were we?
water,
The-
West Street, the
the
West
Ian-
Street bond
To
is in
Ian's
there.
frustration, I can see him over there. But are those numbers? You know, I mean, this is where it frustrates me with the auditors not picking this stuff up. We pay good $20,000 to have our books audited, and they're not, you know, with the water and saying, here's what you have in your water capital reserve or not. Undesignated fund balance
Right, no, that's fine.
unassigned.
No, I was thinking about the electricity. I wish that we have a little bit of solar from the 116 south, but it's a very tiny percentage. But to get that number down, because it will continue to increase unless we can get more efficient pumping. Any new building we build, we need to throw solar all over it, like All Earth. He's got like double what he needs, so he's just feeding back, and we could do that.
Well, he doesn't use any of that. He sold it all.
No, I
to
know, that's
something
true,
like
but what we could do is, we build a new DPW building or
Oh,
another
it's
kind
gonna
of
be all
building.
solar.
And put solar on it, so we cover that, and we get this down, so we're not paying for this. I mean, you're paying for the solar panels and stuff, but then, you know, this is covered with that. Any electricity-based stuff, the town should be doing it with solar on a new building. And seems like that location will be good for it too.
We'll have to orient the building,
Yeah.
I got my May,
which we weren't gonna put the doors on the south, but we may have to in order to.
bank today.
Yeah. Well, we can figure it out. I
For
mean,
the bank, I got my 7 electrical
Any
bills.
more questions on the loan figures?
Yes.
Is any of them paying, any of them going off this year, by the way?
No.
Nothing?
No.
When's the next one go off? Do we,
Let's see, so,
Valerie, I
It's
think
actually-
I'm reading it wrong. I think it's 120 for 26 for 25.
let's see.
Doesn't make sense. if
This
it was-
is water department.
there's 120, there's your 120, Joe, 499.
Ugh.
I think this loan, the West Street water line loan, I don't think we're actually paying on that one.
That's the 8,800. 120. Is it really 120,500 is what we're gonna have to pay in 26 or 25? Owie. So if it was 70, 55,894 and 21,802 is more than 70. That's 77,696.
77.
and then 34,003, because they're gonna hit you with your first payment in November, because they're gonna do it 1 year from substantial service, from substantial.
So what are you saying? That 120's gotta be, half of that's gotta go into payment?
No, I'm saying I
Okay.
have it in the budget as 111 and it's 124.99.
What you said, first half is in November and the second half before the first
No,
of
the
June?
8,000 doesn't go, the 8,000 doesn't go off until after the end of this.
Oh,
No, this year, yeah, that 8,000 goes off next year.
Ouch. So we're at 124.99. So I had 111. It's not. It's 124.99.
So you gotta change that on the budget then.
Yep, it's worse.
What was it, 499?
124.99.
So that 8,800 drops off next year. And then we come down to 111,699, and then the West Street 2 won't start payments until a year after the construction finishes. So we won't have, so if construction is 26, 27, 28 is when we'll make our first payment on the West Phase 2. And we have no idea what that'll be. She emailed me back with details, but I still found them, data were detailed but vague.
how those cookies doing, Steve? You still with us? I know we're doing budgets and you're kinda
He's out of dessert.
out of
Keeping,
the,
Just putting kids to bed.
putting kids to bed.
probably, it's our little.
Any questions on these bonds, so we can go back?
No,
into
we can
the
go back to
budget?
the regular budget.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's also will give us the percent number for the letter. I thought it seemed too good to be true.
Well, she got a bond right here, 120.
She changed
Just
it.
changed
I didn't see her change it. She
That's
did.
because she
Oh,
wasn't
she
sharing
changed-
her
She
screen.
wasn't sharing her screen.
It's on the
okay.
other screen, yeah.
All right.
Didn't show tabs.
So
That's why I stopped sharing to bring up another file because it doesn't switch automatically on the screen.
okay, so now the top line needs to be 397,024. So we gotta go up. And it's minus 394.75. You need to add 6,549 to that number. Oops. Nope.
You say you're not in the right column.
I know.
You were looking at it and then you ended up in a new spot.
No, you're in a different, you're in the wrong spot.
Oh, you gotta go back up to water rents at the very
All
top.
right. I had to
You
move
were
it.
there and then, yep, right there, 6,549.
Yeah, now you gotta go back in.
Yeah, that's
Put the
pretty good.
plus in there. Oh, boy.
Going on the wrong end.
Plus
There you go.
No, she's got on
549.
both, she's got to put on both ends.
There, so 16.1 is what your rates would go up.
Yippee,
Yay. So,
And yeah, we still haven't dealt with these numbers.
gotta check those.
Yeah.
So it might end up being more like 17% if that's the case, because I'm sure those went up. That's why I was curious if there was any undesignated fund balance somewhere to miraculously pay down a portion of the loan before even securing
Well, that
it.
would be nice to know before next Monday.
Well, we will definitely do our best to find that out.
Yeah, I mean, we tried pulling what's called a water budget balance sheet, but that wasn't, I was hoping that had like $500,000 in it and that maybe that was undesignated, but that's just a function of assets minus liabilities and depreciation. It's not money. It's accounting stuff. I was looking for like real overages from past budgets that got tucked in an account somewhere.
Valerie, can I see that water rents again? The next line up, 245,043.
Where are you looking at? 245? Oh,
Right
this year.
here.
That's 3/4 out of 4.
3 times 4.
So seeing that it's almost 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
Jill and I and others here will put more elbow work into the budgets and see what we can come up with for next Monday.
so I guess what we budgeted last year, I'm just throwing this out. I took that $245,43, $245,043 and divided it by 3 and times it by 4. That's if everybody uses the same amount of water. My water bill don't change much over 3 months. We should only budgeted 326 instead of 339.
That's
that
the
making-
piece that we didn't get all of our, we're not gonna get all of our revenue in this year because there's less water being measured and billed for. That's why I think we should
Even
probably,
though we've added on a couple of places. You know,
Yep.
We're selling more water to, maybe we're just leaking more too.
that doesn't show leaks. If they had a leak on the opposite side, inside of their building, it would show it because it would get measured and it would be on their meter. That's more.
But no,
showing that-
our leaks in the ground and our pipes.
Yeah, because your water rents are currently billed at volume. Like usage volume, period. You don't have. Your water rents don't have a fixed base rate. Based on a particular allocation.
And that's where I want to go next.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes,
That's why
Okay.
that's a really good
that's a
segue.
good lead into.
Yes, yes.
In terms of the budget discussions, is it possible to have a treasurer involved going forward?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's away.
I don't know
Up for
why.
an unknown
Okay.
period of time.
Okay.
Since last week. All of last week. So how do I?
Is it that position?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but it's like, oh my God.
We just run them through.
Okay, so you want a discussion on alternate water rate? structure?
Right, so as Jill just mentioned, it's based upon volume. And if you look at the rate structure, and I think I posted something about this on the website. It's a 2017 document about how to calculate your water bill.
Yeah, I read.
And it's based upon 3 years worth of average flow or some other things, and for a new water connection, you don't have that kind of history, so I don't know how people would figure that out. But other places, a lot of other places have a fixed base rates.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna pull this up as an example, but it's not a bad one.
So the water usage it's based on the previous 4 quarters,
Yeah.
not years. So it's one year of use, and that's how the 1 EU is calculated.
And every single connection would be at least 1 EU.
Right.
I see
But-
in. Yeah,
Yeah, but it
Wait a
doesn't.
minute,
it
wait a
doesn't-
minute, I just missed that. Each service connection would be what?
a minimum of 1 equivalent unit, which would be 1
Okay.
base rate. So the way that I've seen that Justin showed me, somebody finally showed me what the water bills, how they're calculated. There's no EUs at all, and everybody gets the same base rate and everybody gets the same gallonage charge. So there's no change in the base rate for an 18 unit apartment than there would be for a 1-bedroom home.
So, what is our base rate? If I had a lot, I think of the lot that my parents, our family sold to the people in Shelburne, still got a curb stop to it. There's no house on it. It was 2 or 3 years ago you put that in. What does he pay a quarter for having a
Nothing.
curb stop?
Nothing.
Nothing at all, because he doesn't have an active water service in your
I didn't
current.
think he did. I'm not blaming him by no means. I never met the man. But we own a piece of property in Brandon, the bank does, the old car wash property. And we pay $60 every quarter. And we haven't turned the water on in 10 years.
Correct.
I think they
because-
need to be charged. They got a
Yeah.
water stop. They need to
That's
be
where I'm
charged.
going with
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
where
So
I'm
that-
going with it.
that's what we don't have.
Right.
All of our our fees, including the base rate 1 EU, is based on volume.
Mhm.
And so when you have no volume,
You don't get
then,
them?
correct, you don't.
And
get
those
charged.
who have
Yes,
3 or 4 apartments
Say the same as.
would be different.
correct.
singles.
Before, well, the mistake was made at the beginning of this process when this was entered into the system, that things weren't calculated correctly for the
Right.
1 EU.
Mhm.
So everyone is at essentially the same when they shouldn't have been for years. But now the discussion is, what do we do about that moving forward?
To fix it.
Well, there's fix it in what way?
Right.
You know, if you look at, and I know you're about to talk, so maybe I'll let Val talk about it, because she's got some hot.
Yeah,
hot
you're
tips.
just chopping all over.
No, I'm not, because I looked at Middlebury to see what Middlebury does.
Go ahead, Alan. You wanted to.
Yeah, but she probably has those numbers.
Trying to find, get it on my screen. Let's see here. So here's an example. Waitsfield's water system is based on ERUs. And everybody starts out as 1 ERU, which I think in Waitsfield is the equivalent of a 3-bedroom home. And the state of Vermont has calculations on how different uses are equivalent to different residential comparisons.
Which is the same as what we have here, the one EU.
No, this is different. They base theirs, they calculate the debt service. It's a fixed cost, it's predictable. And so they divide the total number of ERUs in the system, and it comes out to, in this case, $456 per ERU, just for the debt service. Can you see that? Okay.
Per
Oh,
ERU
okay.
per year.
So it would be our $120,000 divided by whatever.
Right,
our
that
ERU
ERU is,
Right.
right.
And they do a separate for the O&M. Again, most of which is a fixed cost, like electricity and utilities and that kind of thing. And then, so the total per ERU for every water customer is a minimum of $628 per year. I can tell you when the system first got opened in 2014, it was $800 a year. But as more ERUs, as more connections
Right.
came on, it dropped that number because there were more ERUs to divide it among. So I'm gonna stop sharing and
Well.
No.
Then letter.
yeah,
Okay,
let me keep going here. Water district. So following that concept, just right now, it's just a concept. If we did that for Bristol, I have these weird things on my screen, I'm trying to move them around. So I'm hitting cells I'm not intending to. Let's see here. So I took this budget. I don't know if it reflects the most current numbers. Yes, it does. So according to the state, Bristol has 695 ERUs, but they calculate ERUs as per dwelling unit. So a 1-bedroom apartment would be 1 ERU, and a 5-bedroom house would be 1 ERU. So that's how they do it. But using those figures and going down here to the debt service line, if we just did that on debt service, it would be $173 per year per ERU. And then if we take that, the operating costs minus the debt service, that's this figure here, and you add them together. If we went this direct, if this is a direction, then it would be a total of minimum $571 per year per ERU. And in Waitsfield's case, 1 ERU includes $10,000 allocation. So you get to use
10,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Oh, you said dollars, not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay,
gallons.
okay.
And anything over 10,000 gallons per either year or quarter, $6 per thousand.
$6.
Yeah,
per thousand
yeah.
gallons.
So there are overages, but there's always that baseline. And some properties that are more than 1 ERU, like 1.2 or 4.5, that's multiplied that by 571.
What would be the debt service? Because that doesn't include the debt service. does it?
173.
Yeah, the debt service is
It's
173.
Okay.
Right.
So it's 173 and three.
And
398
gives us the
571.
571.
Where's the 398, where's that come?
That's
That's
the
the total
operating.
budget?
That's the budget minus the debt. So that's just
Okay.
the operating.
See,
So that's three
gonna
ninety-seven,
take that-
24 minus 120.
I'm gonna take that property up on North Street that we sell, my family sell.
Yeah.
I think the debt service, everybody who's got a curb stop should pay for the debt service, but the O and M, operating and maintenance,
I can, no,
I couldn't.
that will make it too confusing. It's, to me, it should be straight across the
Well,
board.
Waitsfield had O and M separate, that's why I didn't want you to take it off.
Right, but they just calculated it separately.
We have O
Everybody
and M
gets it.
separate. O and M here is 390,
398.
398.
Right, I think everybody should have the curb stop, should be paying 173
At
minimum,
least.
a minimum.
I think they should pay the whole thing. The only thing they're not gonna pay
They're
for
not
is the
using
10,
electricity.
but they're
they're
not gonna be paying, doesn't matter, but they're not gonna be
Well, I think it
paying
does.
for the 10,000 usage.
No, they're not getting the
paying for
water. I think they ought to pay to have that curb stop. 173, and once they turn the water on, they're using electricity, they're using water, which is using electricity, then they should pay the OM. 173, I don't have a problem with. I have a problem with, that fellow up there's been 3 years, 4 years, and that curb stop hasn't had that, he hasn't turned that meter down at the pump or that pump on 1 gallon. And but with the O and M, he's paying another 398. I think he ought to pay the bond payment because we've done improvements to the system.
The entire system benefits.
He or she or
So it
whoever.
seems like Middlebury has a different system, looking at their rates.
Mhm.
They have the quarterly water rates for 24, and they have a base rate in town, which is $68 a quarter. And then they have a base rate out of town, 74. And then the in-town usage is $4.05 per 1,000 gallons, which is similar to ours, 4.33 or whatever ours is. And then out of town is 4.32 per 1,000 gallons. So it seems like they're capturing, instead of dividing out.
And they have
doing-
separate rates for
doing-
their sewer.
Doing the ERUs, they're just doing that flat rate of 68 times 4, if you're in town, or 74 times 4.
But is that a per ERU or is that per,
I don't, it doesn't
per-
on
per
their,
tap?
on their page, it doesn't say
Say
how they calculate it.
it, right? No.
And maybe it is based on the ERU, based on users, or maybe it's just a flat fee. This was 24, I know that they were putting it up to like $86 in town, or something similar for 25, so obviously they're increasing it by quite a
Yeah,
lot.
my guess is they may use the ERUs and just come up
Yeah,
with what,
which is
okay,
what-
what's the average
Which
flat
is what we
rate?
need to do as well,
Mhm.
and just have it so it's very clear.
So I want to show you something I started to do, and I'll be interested in your thoughts if you think it's worthwhile to continue trying to do. Because there are different ways to calculate an ERU, to define it, number of dwelling units, number of bedrooms, wastewater flow. And I'm not sure what is the baseline for Bristol's EU. I'm not clear about that. I was starting to do, I'm gonna share again. I think this is the right one. Yep. So I asked Sharon and Chris to produce a spreadsheet of all the water accounts, all of them. So I'm just scrolling through quickly of all 600 blah, blah, blah accounts. And I was beginning to enter in the quarterly usage from the most recent figures that we have, just to see how they compare. And using listers data or any other data that we know, how many bedrooms those properties have, how many dwelling units are they, what's their wastewater allocation, if we know what that is. And then try to run different scenarios of ERU types of calculations based upon that data, those baseline pieces of information, and just see how it looks. That would help inform us how we want to define it. I don't know the answer to that yet. If we want to go in this direction, it'll take some time to put this information together.
Something you could delegate to somebody.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that is
You should
somebody
not-
could do
not be
data
doing
entry
this.
for
Oh,
you.
I know, that's why I
Yeah.
stopped, but,
Yeah.
just to give you an idea, something I was looking at, I don't mean to pick on Woodland Apartments, but,
But you will?
yeah, I'm going to.
Those are sorted
Not
by
me,
account,
what have I got?
those are sorted by account numbers, aren't they?
So.
You can see they're not in
There's-
alphabetical order.
there's the thing. Okay, so I was playing around, I was trying to calculate how many bedrooms they have, how many buildings, and I was looking at their
30
wastewater approvals. And so they have these 2 lots that aren't built yet, and
Right.
those are the flows that were approved there. The permits are not very clear on what the current buildings are
Like
allocated
bedroom
for.
wise and stuff.
But even so, I mean, if one way to interpret that if they really have 63 bedrooms among the 8 buildings, which I really can't tell because the way they framed the information. I mean, that's a lot of bedrooms, you know, and it's a lot of flow too. And so I don't know how we would balance that out, but then again, they're also looking at this number, they're big users, yeah. So, and same thing would be, let's see, in the state's calculation, in the ERUs, we learned that they calculated, or they added in woodland apartments at 45 dwellings, and KTP Park at 45. And yet, those two in particular are I'd say, yeah,
We're calculating as 2 ERUs, right?
say that again?
We're calculating, our water department is calculating those as 2 ERUs.
I really don't know. yet.
One.
I don't know.
One for the woodland,
Everything-
one for,
Everything's one.
Yeah, because they only have one meter.
That's why those numbers were wrong with the revolving loan fund. Because the state calculated them differently. than
Oh,
we
right,
did.
right,
That's, and that was sort of tied into
right.
why we know ours.
Where do
So
you
I,
have two options, ERUs based on bedrooms and ERUs based on what?
Oh, bedrooms, dwelling units, let's see, have to move this over again.
so I think we need to have data from other towns
Based on
That's
wastewater permit.
Yeah, wastewater permit, the
and
flow,
see how
because
other
that's what they're
towns,
allocated.
see how other towns calculate it. And I also think we should ask the state what their calculation is.
I did, and the message, maybe Jill and Steve can help interpret it for me, but it was clear as mud to me how they
Okay.
came up with it.
Because especially going forward, if we're doing, 10 years of updates and they're calculating our ERUs for us and our numbers are wrong, we need to be able to match their numbers.
But again, if we-
Well, do we have to match, we don't necessarily have to match their numbers for our billing purposes.
But I think it behooves us to stick with a system that's already in place that
Okay.
the state maybe uses to calculate ERUs, instead of us just guessing like, well, that. Like,
or if
we need a clear, defined
and
path to
equitable.
follow, yes.
well, if we
Yes.
don't match their numbers, we have to convince them why we
No,
have
I
our
know,
numbers at
which is a
63
much-
or
which-
45.
Which is a much harder thing to do.
And
So-
also the impact, I wanted to get a
Because
sense of
we're
the
right
impact
here.
on the school, because I'm sure they're high.
Yes.
And the grocery store and
Yeah.
some of
So,
those other
yeah,
high
yeah.
water users, what would be the impact if we shift to this kind of,
Mm.
and would we build into certain thresholds where over a certain threshold, there's, some sort of accommodation?
Is Mount A one ERU
I
by
don't know.
calculation?
And I don't know.
Yes,
I mean,
but by
it's-
gallons wise, they fill
No.
that swimming pool.
People are,
Not-
it's that base
Steve, you want to?
cost price,
Yeah,
but
no, that-
everyone's paying for their gallon use.
Hold on, Steve.
Everyone's paying for the water that they
Right.
use. It's that initial way that we calculate what a particular building is worth. And it seems like, from what I know and talk to people about here, everything is one ERU, when it actually, in reality, it shouldn't be. It should be calculated differently.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna say that ERUs for the school would be considered a commercial building. You got residential, all the residential, you guys are correct. It's one unit. One ERU equals one unit, right? Essentially. And if it's a duplex, it's 2. If it's a triplex, it's 3. When it comes to commercial, I'm looking up right now as we're talking about this, they take all of the gallonage and divide by, I believe it's 70. Jill, do you remember the number 70?
76 or 77,000.
Yes, exactly. And divide by 70, let's say it's 77,000. And that's how they come up with the commercial ERUs, and they add the two together. They add the commercial plus the residential. So if we had, 7,700,000, right, that would equal, divide by 77,000, whatever, 100 units. You'd add that to the residential, and that's what you get. They take all of your commercial throughout the town.
But we don't know how we're charging commercial either. We know
I
how the
do
state
know,
is
I do
calculating.
know. You are literally, everybody has a base rate and then they get charged by the 1,000 gallons. That's it. Nobody pays an ERU over 1.
Yeah,
Period. There's no, and because there's no ERU value in the system, there's
Yeah.
nothing in the program. So a person with a 1-bedroom trailer that uses 60,000 gallons of water, which is an extreme amount of water, is gonna pay the same amount as Mount Abe when they use 60,000 gallons of water. Even
Yeah.
though Mount Abe's allocation is far higher and the trailer with 1 bedroom is far lower.
Yeah,
No,
Right.
and that doesn't seem equitable.
Rather put my name in, what do I use?
Oh, I don't know that I have it filled in
You
yet.
might-
She doesn't have them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I just
I
started.
saw something.
Yeah.
76,000.
Yeah, if we can, if, I guess, a starting point,
Uncle Gerald was there, he didn't have anything down.
No,
a starting point would be to figure out how the state calculated Bristol's ERUs for
no.
the phase 1 project. That could be a good starting point if we can understand that. Then do we use that approach when we recalculate or reconfigure our system? And that's just maybe one option of many, as you presented tonight. But that seems like, since we had a lot of questions about why that number was so different to ours, we might as well start with that and see, like, how are you calculating this? If if we're not calculating it correctly for our own system, how are you doing this? And then if we have that information, then we can say,
Then we
hey,
can-
do we want to adopt that?
Or
Right.
do we wanna do something different?
Right, yeah, is that equitable, or is it not? The state does it in a certain way that doesn't equal how we want to do it, and then we would look at other options to make it as equitable as possible.
Mhm.
I mean, at the
Also,
minimum,
if you
Sorry,
were
Jill.
curious what other water rates are all over the state, I just linked in the dashboard to UNC's Vermont water rates database that they created. You can look at water rates for like all different water systems throughout the state on that database. It's
I
a
mean-
perspective.
I think at the minimum, I take the fellow up on North Street still, with a vacant piece of property, he's ready to go. He can go anytime he wants, get his building permit. He hasn't paid a dime. This figures up a little less. If you took the 173, just the capital bond payments, that's gonna help everybody for future. He'd be paying $43 a quarter, 43 and a quarter.
Yeah.
25 cents. And like I told you, we pay about $58 to $60 every quarter at a vacant lot that we've been paying for 10 years down there. And we pay a sewer rate.
Mhm.
And there's not a building on it. It's just green grass.
Right. Now, Jill,
I think that should, at least the minimum,
I think-
everybody should pay the bond payment.
I think,
GRU.
if I recall from Amy Gelford's response this morning, part of their ERU calculation comes from the sanitary survey that gets done.
Our next one is next Thursday, the 13th. So
Right,
we'll
right.
see if they surprise us with a new ERU number that they may or may not actually tell us in the letter. Cause I never saw the ERU letter in the letter, the ERU number change in the letter.
Right.
They just sent a letter that was like, you're doing great, you're in compliance, keep it up.
Hmm.
And then our ERU number changed and we were never told it changed. So I like to know when data is changing on the water system and it's impacting our eligibility for funding, it'd sure be nice to know that something was changing and that other decisions are being made at a regulatory level that they're not sharing with us. I would like to know those things.
So are you meeting with the sanitary survey person on next Thursday?
Yeah, Matthew Caldwell. The last
Yeah.
time I had a sanitary survey at another water system last month, he brought 2 new people that were training because he is the only sanitary surveyor in the entire state at the moment. So
Wow. Do you think he would have information to share about how all of that stuff is derived? Will we know by then?
I will ask him.
Yeah.
Last time he surprised me with a need for PFAS removal at my other plant, so I'm happy to surprise him with some good questions.
So we won't have
Okay.
information for Monday's meeting, but I think we're heading in a direction that I think I'm
So-
sensing some agreement that that's a direction we should be going in.
So we won't, at Monday's meeting, we won't even decide whether we're gonna at least do
We could.
an ERU situation where we're gonna bill. If you got a curb stop on your lawn, you can hook up to it anytime, you're getting the minimum charge.
Well, I
No,
think,
are we ready to go there or
no,
not?
I don't think so. Because the minimum charge, we're still trying to figure out how.
What it's gonna be.
how we're gonna create, well, not what it's gonna be, but how it's created. And if it's the ERU system, similar to what Waitsfield does,
See, you would be
That's-
too, because he applied for a duplex,
Who did?
North Street.
Right. He did, but he only got one curb stop. One,
But-
right, no, I agree, I see
But
what you're
it's-
saying.
It's how we
See,
calculate
how do we
it.
calculate that?
Yeah, and
And
what
I'm
if there's only
thinking of-
one bedroom in each one?
Right.
I'm thinking,
The,
of-
the idea is that you're trying to make it as fair as possible.
Equitable,
The only trouble is that because we didn't have this, everyone's the same. And so now we're making it, it's not that it's unfair, but it's actually going to a point where it
More
should have
fair.
been many, many years ago, which changes how everyone's water is
To
calculated.
me, it's more equitable.
Well, it's not. Yeah, that's
It
true.
will
It
be.
is.
I mean, once,
Yes,
once
you're
you,
right.
we
But it's
switch it over.
it's not just like that some people's water will change depending on how we calculate it. It's that the whole water district changes.
Right.
But you're right, people who have larger uses and larger buildings, they will be calculated differently,
Differently, right.
depending on how we do. But I mean, you're right, that is the way we should do it.
you know, some of these larger apartments, you know, they begin one ERU, and if they're a 12 unit,
Correct.
was it 598 or 498 total?
Something like that.
You know,
It's five
you're,
something.
600, yeah.
you're talking,
There's
$6,600 more in water bill this year,
Yeah,
or next year, or whatever.
Well, no, 6,600, but what's he paying now?
right.
That's just the ERU
Yeah.
charge.
Right, but he has to go over a certain amount of gallons in order to be charged anymore after that.
No, I thought the ERU charge was per apartment.
It is, but that's the operating budget, and then if you go over, then you pay more for the water. That's your bill.
So there's two pieces. Here's your
Yeah.
base charge, which is based on whatever you determine your ERU or your EU figure is and how that's calculated. And then it would be you're allowed X number of gallons per quarter and anything over that. Or would you say it's a per gallon charge on top of that? How do you want to do that?
Oh, I see what you're saying. If we had 2-unit apartment, Steve said a duplex, there are 2 ERUs at $500, let's say, that'd be $1,000, and they get allocated 12,000 gallons each unit per
Yeah.
Yeah,
quarter,
or whatever.
Yeah.
quarter a year. Okay, and then the 10-unit apartment gets 120,000 gallons.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
all right,
Free water.
free water.
We got
Now,
free water.
No, I mean.
Not ready to give it
we
away.
haven't been giving out free water. thank
No,
you.
no, it's free water up until that point, and then you gotta pay for it.
right, okay,
You gotta have the right sales pitch in here. You
okay.
get free water until you
We
use
have-
too
Okay,
much.
now this is recorded. People are gonna be calling your phone tomorrow.
We done with that one, Valerie, you think?
I think so. I just wanted to lay the groundwork
Yeah.
for this. And I don't know that we have the bandwidth tonight to dive into ordinance stuff. And
Okay.
It's really not,
I can tell you, I don't.
No.
Well, I think, but also I think, given Steve's approach and Jill's approach, I think more work needs to be done outside of the select
Yeah,
board
I agree.
to work through.
I
And I
agree.
think what needs to be presented to us is something where we're familiar with it, but also, in my mind, we shouldn't have a lot of questions about it.
Mhm.
Our engineer and our town administrator and our water operator have gone through it and are presenting something to us,
Mhm.
and that we shouldn't have a lot of questions,
Yeah, I agree.
ideally.
Yeah, we just haven't been able, with time
Right.
constraints and
No, because
schedules.
it's huge, especially if it's what Steve used, whatever one that was 84 pages long. I mean, it needs to be that long, but it's, yeah. It's very
Okay.
time consuming.
Various other updates.
That's very broad.
Yeah,
What about the letter to the governor?
Go ahead.
That's next.
That's next.
Yeah, so
How did I get
with Steve
beyond that?
and Jill on the line, I wanted to leave them an opportunity if they have anything they wanted to report before Monday's meeting or not.
No, I just want to know what do we need to do before Monday's meeting? Because if we're still like not finalized on our budgets and we're presenting this to the public.
Well, Jill, you and I and whoever else here have some homework to do to answer the questions that were raised tonight about accrual versus cash and, you know, how many billing cycles are represented in the budget figures. Those lists of questions that you and I can try to tackle this week.
Coming from a water user, Jill, that, you know, I know what my bill is about every quarter at between $85 and $92. Just say that budget Monday night, you could say if your average bill is going up $6 a quarter or $10 a quarter, that's what I'm looking for. Just,
Okay.
I think the public's looking for as water users. If we said 14%, they're going, whoa, 14% budget
Okay.
increase.
Oh, but if you change your billing rate structure for somebody that has like a lot of bedrooms, their bill could go up a whole lot more.
Well, I don't think we're ready there
We're
yet.
not ready for that.
Okay,
That's-
thank you. I
that's not
needed
ready
to
for
just
prime
understand
time.
like how many things are happening tomorrow before next week.
I
We
think
can't, we can't have that all in order and that.
no, I'm just thinking next Monday when we pass the budget that we adjusted these numbers, put the
Got it.
$124.99 in and all that. Okay, your $85 every quarter is gonna go up to 95 or 102, whatever. That's all I was looking, that's personally what I was looking for.
Okay.
Okay, continue review of the draft letter to the governor and follow up on the DWSRF, RF3, blah, 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 loan offer.
Well, we didn't give Steve a chance to see if he had any.
I'm sorry,
updates.
Stephen. Did you finish your cookies?
Yeah, I'm all done with the cookies, thank you.
Okay, any Palmer maple syrup on them?
No, they were Oreos. No syrup on Oreos. No, I'm all set. Valerie, we're getting together, I think, on the ordinance sometime later, Wednesday or Friday.
Peter's talking to Valerie, sorry, Steve.
Sorry.
I'll answer, yes.
Go ahead, Valerie. Steve asked you a
I
question.
got distracted. What?
Yeah, go ahead
Yeah,
again,
meeting
Steve.
sometime soon to go over the ordinances.
Right, yeah, I'm trying to nail that down.
Okay.
And also, Steve, on Monday's agenda, do we need to have, this coming Monday agenda, do we need to have something, a line item for contract amendment or something related to the next phase of, what will you be expecting to do at Monday's meeting?
I believe we're reviewing the 60% drawings.
Okay. Is there anything else?
No, not in my mind.
Okay, good.
I guess, Steve, I just would like to know, and I bet people in the village water system, the waters department system, is asking me, what are the next streets being done? You know, in the second phase. And I says, like I guessed tonight, maybe Maple and Munsell, because Eric says those are the next two that he'd really like to see paved.
Liberty, Montville, it's
Yep.
on the west.
It's on the west, Elm,
West.
Taylor, yeah, Pleasant.
West of North.
Everything
Yeah,
west of.
so
North.
that's all I need.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
and
thanks.
we're gonna go over all of that on Monday, I believe. Yeah, you're right. It's Munsell, Maple, Pleasant, Church, Elm, Taylor, West, Park, and School.
Okay. Not necessarily in that order.
Not necessarily in that order, correct.
All right, thank you.
All
Go have, pour another glass of milk, 'cause that's more Oreos. Thank you, Stephen. We'll go to the next one, but continue to chime in here. Continue review of the draft letter to the governor and follow up to all the loan offer.
Yeah, so I sent out an updated letter. And I do need to adjust on the second page, the impact paragraph about the water rate increase. Yeah, to about 15% instead of 40.
Actually, Valerie, it is more like 17% because we missed that $8,800 bond vote. Remember, it was 120 something and 111.
Okay,
It is almost 20%. I mean, we could round.
I put 40%, call it.
Yeah, good point.
I guess I read the letter and you guys, what I didn't chime in at all is I read the final one today and nowhere did we ask, we would like to be reconsidered for at least 50% forgiveness. We never asked that. We've said that we're sorry they're overworked and understaffed and blah, blah, blah. We never asked.
So for our suggestions, I like everything down to that, and I like the format of the
Mhm.
first letter, not the second one. This is just me talking out loud. For our suggestions, I think we ought to get rid of everything down to number 3 and say something to the effect that we wish you would reconsider the loan forgiveness, and if not, at least the interest.
Yeah, or the administration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we appreciate your attention to this matter, which significantly impacts Bristol's water users, and leave it at that.
Okay.
That way, throwing anybody under the bus anywhere. And we're just asking him to look at it and reconsider it.
So how would we phrase that? We wish the loan terms could be reconsidered, or how did you put that?
I guess my thought was, we wish you would reconsider what we were
See, he
led
has-
to believe.
He has no role in this.
Right, led to believe that we were going to qualify for 50% and no percentage, no interest in administrative fee. You guys, you and Ian, Jessica, are really good at those language. I don't know, but just, we never asked in the letter, we wish you could reconsider.
Well, that's what our suggestion.
Yeah.
And
That's
number
our
3 is
opportunity.
reconsider the outcome for Bristol. But I don't want to say to align with the program's goal and improve local water system. I think I just want to reconsider.
We wish the outcome of Bristol's loan could be reconsidered.
Bristol's loan forgiveness,
We wish the
50% loan forgiveness.
outcome for Bristol's loan.
I mean, I don't know that I'd say outcome. I would say reconsider the loan forgiveness, the 50% loan forgiveness, because that's ultimately what we're asking them to do, right?
Yeah. And if not, at the very least, a no interest loan.
If you see here, we don't ask them to reconsider, we just ask them. They'll say, well, going forward, let's be more clear with Bristol. If I read that letter, I think, staff. please
No,
read
it's right
No,
here.
It says,
Yeah,
our
read it.
suggestions, reconsider the outcome. Yeah, of the Bristol to align with the program. So if we just put in there, reconsider,
our loan request.
I don't know if
Or-
it's, well, we got the loan. It's a matter of the terms of the loan.
Or should we use the?
Reconsider the forgiveness, or at the very least, a no interest or a no,
Administrative.
eliminate the administrative fee or yeah, waive the administrative fee.
Wait, yeah.
Okay,
And then the last paragraph, we appreciate your attention to this matter, which significantly impacts Bristol's water users.
Should we?
And delete the last,
Huh?
then
And
delete the
delete
last
everything
sentence.
else, yeah.
You wanna keep on the local economy? Or do you just wanna keep it just for the water users?
It affects the local economy because it affects all our businesses.
so the sentence currently reads, we appreciate your attention to this matter, which significantly impacts Bristol's most vulnerable ratepayers
Right.
and the local economy.
And it just doesn't impact the most vulnerable, it impacts all of our
Right,
ratepayers.
So
Bristol's
Bristol's,
ratepayers.
Yeah.
Bristol's right there, and the local economy.
Yeah,
And should we, in theirs, in that whole line right there with that line, say, and really significantly is going to impact us going forward to replace more lines.
no, I think we've
No,
already
that's
said
up-
that.
That's up
It's already
above.
in
I
there.
know it was up
That's
above.
everything's up above,
Yeah.
right? You
Okay,
don't
leave it
wanna,
alone.
You wanna?
you
wanna
want
leave
it
that- you wanna
right
leave-
to the point and
You wanna leave that final sentence in without,
No,
without your intervention, or take that
no,
out?
no, I think
Take it out?
no, yeah, I don't, that's throwing the,
DWSRF under the bus.
Okay.
yeah, and we've already asked, we said we understood they were understaffed and all of
Okay.
that, so.
Under the paragraph that's headed with our suggestions, should that be our request?
Yes,
Yes. I was trying to think of another,
or our requests.
A request, and
yeah, and I
as
would-
simple as
so-
reconsideration.
Yeah, so that final paragraph will just end at economy.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay. And then we'll sign this next Monday night, everybody.
no, I think if,
We can
is there
do-
any way we can print it now and sign it? Cause I think it needs to go.
I think it's dragged on too long, yes, Speaker.
Well, if we need to make a decision by the end of this month, otherwise we lose the loan,
Right,
we need to get it to him sooner rather than later.
So read that last, our request sentence to me, because it's right, on my screen it's in pieces.
Our request,
We wish,
reconsider.
let's start from the beginning. We wish, or what?
No, I would say our suggestion.
please reconsider,
Because he is not gonna be doing anything,
Right.
so.
you're right, please reconsider the loan forgiveness, Is it loan forgiveness or is it?
Please encourage the department to reconsider.
Yeah,
Please encourage the DWSRF
program,
program
To reconsider.
administrators.
Bristol's 50% loan forgiveness.
Yeah, I think the word 50%.
Hold on.
needs to be in there.
Program administrators. Please encourage the DWS program administrators.
50% loan forgiveness
To
or
reconsider.
waive the.
Or
waive
at least
Or at least
waive.
waive the admin fee.
50%.
I was gonna put and or.
No, because there won't be an admin fee if it's.
Please encourage the DWSR program administrators to reconsider,
Bristol's 50% loan forgiveness.
can reconsider Bristol's 50% loan forgive, 50% loan forgiveness eligibility.
Yes,
Yeah, that way we're not demanding it.
yeah,
Eligibility,
comma, or at the least
or at least.
waive the 2% administration fee for the loan.
Administrative fee.
It wasn't a 2% fee, it was a 2% interest rate on the fee
Well,
supposedly,
no,
right?
but it's called an
That's
administrative.
Administrative
Okay.
fee.
I'll
We
put
call
fee
it a
in
fee.
brackets.
It's an APR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fully
Like
amortized.
we can't tell the difference, right?
Bad word.
And so delete the sentence that had followed that about aligning the programs.
right.
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
I think so, because I think they're doing that. So we just have our request.
And then deleted the very last line of the last paragraph,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, watermark.
Ian has our signature, electronic signatures.
Right.
You don't have
If you
Jeff-
don't need it, if you don't want to print tonight,
Okay.
I can do it tomorrow morning.
And then have you got Jessica's? You'll have to get hers.
Yeah, I'll get hers.
This guy's-
Isn't he a little scary?
Yeah, I'll get hers.
Well, the fact that AI.
Created his running words.
Yeah.
No, it's the perfect use to
Yeah.
truncate it down.
No, I think this is way better than,
But it's good to have the full thing.
Yeah.
You need to have the whole story.
Yeah,
so
this
we have
doesn't
it.
mention that all the other information is available if you want it, but
That's fine, because
yeah,
are they gonna ask for it? Probably not.
No.
But I
no, if it may, we may be crying on deaf ears, but at least we tried.
Yeah.
At least we tried.
We're crying on deaf ears.
Well,
Maybe the next time.
That's just my opinion.
Well, maybe the next time they'll say, hey, we
Well, I
didn't play well. the
I
first
don't
time.
think this letter does not piss anybody off.
Right.
although it's copied to Julie Moore, Neil Kamen, the Drake Monks, Chris Bray, and Amy Schultz.
I think we ought to throw our two. We do have two representatives that represent Bristol, whether they come to a meeting or not. I think they at least ought to be CC'd personally.
Caleb and
Caleb and Mary. And I think both senators out there. You see, you saw Chris Baker, we reached out to him.
Yeah.
Or Cy did, or Jill, someone did. I think Ruth Hardy is a senator, and at least ought to put it down.
Okay.
At least next time they'll know how we feel, those three that I mentioned.
Okay, I'm disconnecting now.
Okay,
Disconnected from my
I'll
work,
add those
no,
in.
just from my work laptop.
I told my wife I'd be home at 9. so-
okay.
well, you lied.
I know. it's for me.
I tell you, I wasn't thinking we'd be here this long.
Right.
I knew we
Well,
would
well,
be.
thank you for doing it, and thank you, Jill.
Any other
and Steve,
business?
and
You're gonna
Cyrus.
print that off tonight?
No, we're gonna.
Ian's gonna take care of it.
Ian's got our
He's got
electronic
your
signature.
signature.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
As long
okay.
as we,
Okay.
well,
I can
can
stop in tomorrow. and sign
can
it.
I make the motion that we send the letter as edited?
Yes.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is the motion a second to send the letter as edited? Any comments? to people? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It's late, you're punch happy.
All right. Other business, Charlie? None, hearing none?
Would you be open to meeting at 6:30 on Monday to meet with Roy Schiff about the Eagle Park railing design?
I would.
I can make it.
That's another half hour.
Yeah, but just think one more month and then you're gonna make the big bucks.
Oh, yeah.
Do.
One more month.
Yeah.
Oh.
July 1st.
You're
Do
right.
we need to go up there to have a site visit at all, or does he have a very detailed plan of what needs to happen?
He's been up there plenty.
Or a site visit at 6, could you make 6?
You mean, does the select board need to do a site visit?
I don't.
Out the
I really don't need to.
This week.
We saw the pictures.
I guess you can if you want individually, I don't know.
I mean, I've been up, and the
Yeah.
hinging thing, it can't technically work because it's a diagonal, it's gonna hit the other thing, so there has to be a way to remove those, which we didn't discuss in the meeting before.
Well,
So-
that-
Well, we didn't,
The
we
point is
discussed
they're
we
gonna
don't want the
overlap.
front one staying, so.
No, I know,
Mhm.
but we didn't know whether it was staying or not, so I just wanted to ask, like, do we need more information from him to meet him out there, or does he have all that already?
I hope he has all that.
Coming prepared. Prepared.
All right,
Okay,
All right, thank you.
any other? Other?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Michelle, we adjourned.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Steve.
Good
Good
night,
Night.
Steve. Good night, Jill, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks, guys.
Night, everybody.
Night, Steve.